She looked me in the eye and said, "You're fired." My wife, my boss, betrayed me in front of everyone. "Screw you, the board, and every other asshole in the company," I roared, my world collapsing. The woman I loved, trusted, turned cold and unfeeling. She claimed it was just business, but it was personal, deeply personal. I left, burning with anger, seeking revenge. I sued her, exposed her lies, and rebuilt my shattered life. This twisted journey of betrayal, heartbreak, and justice will shock you. This is my story. Enjoy watching it. Dave was in his wife's office, where she was the top boss of the department. He was just a regular account representative, much lower in rank. He felt a bit worried when she first started working there, but since there were many other managers in between them, he felt relieved. However, when she mentioned that the numbers were significantly low, he began to question if everything was as good as he thought. "Waxman, you were not the top performer in your group this year. I am sorry, but we have to let you go. X is here to help you gather your belongings from your office. Xavier is one of our security guards. Waxman and Xavier always addressed each other as Mr. and Ms. She decided to keep her last name for work, even though everyone knew she was married to a colleague. He proudly displayed a photo on his desk of her receiving a promotion from the chairman of the board. That's the story. I worked at this company for 9 years, but they fired me because my performance was not good enough. If you just heard me out, you would understand. Please, let's not argue. The choice has been made. Let's not make things more difficult." He found that amusing for some reason. "Miss Patterson, please listen to me." She accidentally pressed a button, and suddenly a tall, muscular man appeared in the room. "Xavier, can you show Mr. Waxman to his desk to get his stuff?" said Dave. "Good luck, Mr. Waxman. Maybe this will inspire you to do better at your next job." Mr. Waxman seemed embarrassed but had to continue with his own work. Dave looked at him and smiled. "Let's go. Do as the lady told us. Let's not make things more difficult than they need to be." As the lady continued to speak, Dave left the room. Those around him avoided making eye contact, indicating that they were aware of the situation before he even arrived. This only added to his frustration. Dave walked slowly, meeting the gazes of those who dared to look at him. Each time, they quickly looked away, with the women even blushing in embarrassment. He didn't have much personal stuff in his office, so it was quick to pack a small box in just 15 minutes. As he left, he handed Dave back the fancy pen and pencil set she gave him when he won Salesman of the Year. He glanced at it briefly before tossing it in the trash with her photo. "No, I didn't." Dave had to take the company car back home. After trying to talk a few times, he understood and stopped talking when Dave left. X reached out to shake my hand. Dave shook it because it was part of his job and he genuinely liked the guy. "Sorry, man. Sorry it went down like that," X said. Dave forced a smile even though he didn't feel like it. "Me too." As he entered, he gazed at the house as though it was his first visit. He noticed there was very little of his presence in the house, making him wonder if he was being sidelined, both at home and at work. Her late arrival at around 7 only added to his uncertainty. Dave was busy watching a baseball game and didn't acknowledge her arrival. "Hi there, sorry I'm a bit late. Meetings went on longer than expected. You know how talkative the board can be," she said, but he continued to focus on the game without looking up. Wondering what to do next, she asked, "What should we have for dinner?" They had a habit of taking turns making dinner, depending on who got home first. He noticed that she hadn't cooked dinner much in the past year, maybe only a few times when he was away. When she found out he had already eaten, she got upset, and it led to a big argument. She seemed angry about something from today. "It was a decision for work, dear. It wasn't about you personally. I still care about you the same as always as a person who makes important decisions. I can't help but feel like you made a foolish choice. And yes, I am upset. I'm very angry about it. The way you handled everything was not good. I never received a bad review during all my time there. Where are the records of warnings and feedback? My performance dropped, but there's a reason you never bothered to find out." I stopped pleading. I believe I acted professionally. It surprised him so much that he stopped talking for a moment. She tried to speak, but he got angry. "Forget you, the board, and everyone else. A problem in the company. You weren't acting like a professional or being fair. You also didn't seem to care about what I had to say. Did Adler have a say in this situation?" She was shocked by his sudden outburst. She had a hard time speaking for a moment before asking. He's been worried for months and looked really nervous when he showed me the numbers. You used to be one of our best workers, but your performance dropped drastically. I had to show that poor performance would not be tolerated, no matter your status. This was necessary to maintain respect among my team. Once more, I've been reflecting on this during my free time this afternoon. When did you no longer treat me with respect as a man and a worker? If you cared about me at all, you would have handled this situation in a better way. You could have spoken to me or let me know beforehand, and if things got tough, you could have given me the opportunity to quit. It will be challenging for me to get a new job if I can't meet my wife's expectations. How can strangers believe in me if my loved one doesn't? Finding work in this town will be tough now. I can't ask my old company for a good reference. I think I've said what I needed to. If we keep talking, I might say things that can't be undone. Why don't you grab dinner while I finish watching the game? She tried again. I didn't expect you to react so strongly. It's just business. We'll be okay, dear. You don't have to worry about work. I earn enough for us. Dave gestured to halt her. Please, let's stop before it gets worse. I know you probably want to make me look weak by turning me into a house husband. It would show everyone that you're a strong CEO. People would say, be careful around her. She's tough. She fired her husband and made him stay home. But really, she's the one in charge in their relationship. Maybe she even makes him do things he wouldn't like wear certain clothes. Forget it. I'll find another job, even if it's not here. Stop talking now. He finally made her angry. Fine, be upset. It might make you work better next time. Just so you know, your tantrum ruined my plans for tonight. It seems like you'll have to rely on yourself to find a solution soon. He didn't mind. It's okay. At least they won't let me go if I don't do well. That hurt her. She struggled to speak until she yelled in anger and left the room. He heard her making noise in the kitchen, so he guessed she was making her dinner. A short time after, he heard her climbing the stairs. When she returned, she told him there would be no intimacy that night. She was dressed in an old t-shirt and worn-out sweatpants. He noticed her disappointment but chose not to say anything. They sat in silence for a while before she finally spoke. She apologized, admitting she had thought about it for a long time before deciding. She assured him of her love and reminded him that it was not the end of the world. Together, they could work it out. Let's move on from this. Things happened. We can't change that now. I'm going to sleep early so I can start fixing the mess you caused in my life. Good night. She struggled to find words before saying, I'll join you soon. He was asleep when her scream woke him up. When she changed, she didn't realize his stuff was gone. He was in the big guest room with its own bathroom, and he intended to stay there for a bit. Eventually, she knocked on the door, asking to come in. Dave ignored her, curious about how upset she would be when she found out he had switched the lock on the door and she didn't have a key. After 10 minutes, he heard the lock shake. A little while later, he heard a sigh and fell asleep. Jane brought her boss his usual coffee and pastry, along with her own breakfast the next morning. She had been working with her boss since she got promoted from secretary to private assistant. Jen was someone at work who always treated her well and could be honest without any consequences. Sitting beside her desk, Jen and her boss enjoyed their usual coffee and chat. "How was your evening?" Jen asked. Her boss sighed heavily and replied, "It didn't go well, not good at all. In just 2 hours, he used more bad words than I can remember from all the time we've been together. When he's mad, he doesn't hold back, and he doesn't think much of how I handle things. He's gone so far as to leave our bedroom and switch the lock on the room he's staying in now. Can you believe he even tossed the pen that used to sit on his desk, along with a picture of me, into the trash? Why is he feeling so upset?" Jen glanced at her boss sadly. "I told you so. You should have been more considerate towards him. You were very harsh, boss. I had to do it that way. I was trying to show everyone that nobody is immune to consequences if they don't meet expectations." "What was the reaction of the other employees?" "To be honest, it's mixed, Bev. Most men and some women believe you are a loud witch. Only a couple of people like you. Some are looking for new jobs because they don't want to work for a company that fires people suddenly. 2 more salesmen have realized they might lose their jobs soon. 1 person has a job interview soon, and I think they will leave in 2 weeks. The other is considering moving closer to their elderly parents as their motivation. Beverly was shocked by this. It was not what she expected. She wanted to show everyone that she was serious about the company no matter who they were. Everyone will work harder. She didn't want to cause people to leave. This could be really bad. She knew it might delay her plans to get a board seat or even become chairman in a few years. A sip of gin helped bring her back to reality. "What will you do about your husband?" She gestured with her hands, deep in thought about her work. She believed that giving him some time and room would help. She thought he truly cared for her. Jen sensed it might require more effort, but stayed quiet. She had been faithful to Beverly for a long time. However, if situations worsened, if others began to depart, she knew she had to have a backup plan. She was concerned about her own family. For 3 weeks, they didn't get much done. He stopped exercising, ate poorly, and drank excessively. He ignored his responsibilities at home, creating messes everywhere. They initially tried to be understanding and put up with his hurtful comments, but eventually fell silent. He noticed that she was spending extra hours at work. She seemed happier there, like she was in charge. Meanwhile, he started skipping showers. After 3 days, Bev had to speak up. "Come on, Dave, get it together. You smell bad and you're getting a big belly. You might be okay with living messy, but I'm not. I'm sorry, okay?" "I wish I had done things differently, but like you mentioned, what's done is done." She looked kinder. "Please, darling, I want things to be like they used to. I miss having you beside me in our bed and inside me. It's been nearly a month. Why won't you return to me?" Dave raised his fingers and moved them. "I'm in a relationship now. They appear to like me and have never expressed any dissatisfaction with my work or suggested ending my employment. Also, you are already in a serious relationship." She looked shocked, then confronted you. "I have never been unfaithful to you, never in all the years we've been married. But I must admit things were tense after rumors started spreading. I have been approached with opportunities. Let's talk about that soon. You've been unfaithful to me throughout our marriage, not with another person, but with a job that consumes you. It always takes priority over my needs. Think about how many anniversaries we haven't celebrated together. We missed 8 out of 13 years. Work always seemed to take precedence over spending quality time with the man you claimed to love. It was constantly at the forefront, overshadowing everything else. Birthdays were frequently forgotten or overlooked. Commitments were consistently broken with both our parents and close friends. Have you ever realized how seldom you visit your parents nowadays? Or how many old friends we have lost touch with over the years? You always seem too busy. But now I see it as a good thing. We never had kids. If we did, they would feel like they only had one parent since they wouldn't see you much. Who are these offers from? Must be important people from work. I can't picture you turning them down unless they could help your career in some way." They briefly sympathized with her. Seeing her hurt look, he didn't feel sorry for long when she suddenly hit him for the first time in anger. About 30 minutes later, he saw the mark still on his cheek. "You mean person? Don't you realize I'm doing this for both of us? We want to stop working while we're still young. I'm not always the most sociable person, and I said sorry whenever I forgot an important date in our lives. We both agreed not to have kids because I wanted to focus on my work. Please don't bring that up again." Regarding the opportunities, a few came from individuals who could boost my professional growth. However, I could never cheat on you because I still deeply care about you. You should pull yourself together. Go on, get ready by showering, dressing, and shaving. Let the woman who cares about you treat you to a nice dinner. She paused, feeling overwhelmed with emotion after her lengthy talk. He replied with a sorrowful smile, saying, "I'm sorry, I already ate dinner, 3 burritos and a big fry. I didn't want to be the last in my family line. I loved you so much, making the decision simple. It hurt when my clients shared family photos. What could I show them? We don't even have a pet. But you're correct. The self-pity needs to end. I'm going upstairs to clean up and get ready for the day ahead. I'll go to the gym frequently from now on. I have the time, so why not? I appreciate the pep talk earlier." She was speechless after realizing what she had done to her husband. Dave wisely chose not to go after him. When he reached downstairs, she looked very sorry and apologized. "I'm sorry, you don't understand how tough this is for me. One decision for the company shouldn't ruin our marriage like this. Please, I'm truly sorry. I had to let you go, but it was for the company's good. As I've said before, it was a business decision. He sighed and said, I still care about you even though you fired me, Bev. It's just that being second to your career all this time is too much. I'm tired of it, honestly. I wish the leadership role brings you comfort and that the praise and salary increases compensate for not having grandchildren around. I hope that achieving success makes up for feeling lonely without family and friends. He is gone. Do you struggle because you feel guilty for how you treated me? Or is it tough simply because those around you are starting to disappear? When you treated me this way at work, it made the environment feel unwelcoming. Others have lost respect for you now. They are worried about you firing them without reason, which isn't good for a happy workplace. I still have friends there who update me on things, and I never speak badly about you, just so you know. I think you were confident in what you did. I wonder how you plan to deal with it. The boss comes over when things go downhill. You might want to hire a good public relations person soon. Dave sighed. Beth, I shouldn't, but I need to tell you this will get much harder. Get ready for the upcoming weeks. Now, I need to hit the gym hard to catch up. Beverly was in bed, feeling sad, replaying the conversation in her head when she remembered his words, I loved you so much. She wondered if he still felt the same as she drifted off to sleep. 3 days later, Beverly was chatting with Jen, feeling confused and upset. I don't know what to do anymore, she confessed. Every time I say something or try to do something, he always twists it against me, she sighed. I'm starting to see that he's been upset about things for a long time but never talked about it. It's been almost 2 months since he last showed any interest in me romantically. I had to buy a vibrator just to manage the frustration or I'd go crazy. I can't believe he refused the job you found for him. He didn't even wait for me to come back. He arrived while you were out and got really upset. It's lucky it was lunchtime, so not many people were around. Why did he get so mad when you were just trying to assist him? I promised the president that I would give him some business if he helped me. Everything was fine until the last meeting when he revealed that he was only hiring Dave because of me. After I agreed to some conditions, he said Dave would be getting the worst territory. If Dave didn't improve the numbers fast enough, he might not keep his job because his wife supported him for so long. The man warned him he wouldn't be patient. Dave thanked him and left for here right away. The president was upset when he called me after leaving abruptly. He insisted that I fulfill my promise to him. Later, we discussed usual business matters. The receptionist informed me that a man was waiting to see Beth without an appointment. He requested just a brief meeting, saying it would only take 5 minutes. He wanted to deliver something to her, so he was brought to Bev's office. He was a big man with a nice smile, wearing a good suit. He thanked her and began talking. Should I call you Miss Beverly Patterson or Mrs. David Waxman? I use my original name at work. How can I help you? He seemed genuinely sorry as he gave her the papers. I apologize, but you've been served. Have a good day. I'll see myself out. Beverly received the envelope and suddenly passed out. When she regained consciousness, she was on her couch with Jen beside her, wiping her face with a cold cloth. Confused, Beverly asked why she fainted. Jen handed her the envelope, triggering Beverly's memory of what happened. They began crying a lot. It took her 20 minutes to cry out in a shaky voice. She asked Jen to open it and see how bad it was. Jen opened it and almost fainted. She read them carefully before placing them on the table in front of the couch. The good news, Beverly, is that he's not asking for a divorce. They are smiling again, but Jen raised her hand. He is doing something really bad. He is taking legal action against the company. You, Bob Adler, and the chairman of the board are being sued for firing him unfairly and causing mental distress. Beverly, you have to reach out to him quickly and try to convince him to drop the lawsuit, or else your job here is at risk. Whether he succeeds or not, it won't make a difference. If you keep your job, there will be a lot of negative attention. You won't be able to advance further. Beverly almost passed out before regaining her composure and quickly driving home in her fancy SUV, hoping to get there quickly. When she arrived, she found a note on the dining table. It said, I'm sorry, Miss Patterson, but you went too far. My lawyer is confident we will win. My boss is trying hard to keep things hush-hush. She got mad when I said I wouldn't agree to any secret arrangements and that I wanted to share this widely. You won't find me here. I followed her suggestion and have left, at least for now. I care about you very much, even though I'm not sure why. After everything settles down, I'm open to getting therapy together if you're interested. Perhaps we can reconnect. It might not happen, but I want to give it a shot. I have a new job now, which is exciting. We'll catch up soon." Beverly sat in her kitchen feeling like everything was falling apart. Just when she thought things couldn't get any worse. It happened. After 2 weeks, the hearing was approaching in 4 days. The board brought in a specialist and a lawyer, and the feedback from employees wasn't positive about her leadership. She was sitting in her chair, not working, lost in her thoughts when Bob Adler suddenly entered the room. She had a good impression of Bob since she had asked him to join the team, and he had proven to be quite capable. He had supported her after she had to let go of Dave, and Beverly had relied on him for comfort during that tough time. She felt lonely and sad. He suggested they go out to eat to help her feel better, and she agreed, ending up drinking too much wine. During the evening, he kissed her, and although she enjoyed it at first, she eventually pushed him away when she realized it wasn't right. He said sorry, but Beverly decided they should only be professional from then on, even though he asked for another chance. "Bev, we have a problem. Solomon Enterprises said they won't sign the contract. We just lost 18% of our business. They found a better and cheaper source for what we provide. They might consider us again next year, but we need to impress them with something amazing if they stick with the new supplier. Additionally, Apex and Stewart Industries might take their business elsewhere, adding another 8% loss." This news was the worst for Beverly. Losing a quarter of their business during the wrongful termination case could be disastrous for her, Alder, and others. She needed to act fast. Bev asked Bob to leave when he kept asking her out after she told him she was separated. She was worried about her marriage, and going out with Bob could make things worse if her husband Dave found out. She decided to call Mr. Solomon for advice. "How many times have I told you to call me Sal? We've known each other for a while now. I consider us friends." "We are friends, Sal. Please pass on my greetings to Susan. I heard your daughter recently graduated with an MBA from Wharton. Will she be the one to lead Solomon Enterprises in the future?" He chuckled. "I certainly hope so. She's already way smarter than I ever was. I'm giving her 3 years to make her mark. Susan and I are planning to sail away when we're ready." "It sounds nice, Sal. I think you know why I'm calling." "I'm sorry, Beverly. The new supplier is better in cost, speed, and quality than our current one. The change is too big to ignore. Have you signed the contracts already?" "Not yet, but we should be done with the paperwork in 2 weeks." "Okay, good to know. Sal, can you give me a chance to try and beat their offer? Just one meeting? That's all I'm asking for." Sal sighed and agreed, saying he would give it a shot for old time's sake. Beverly felt confident she could win the business back, so she stopped worrying and shifted her focus to the upcoming hearing. Dave was feeling lost and extremely stressed. It seemed like there were no opportunities in his current job field. He realized he might need to broaden his job hunt and consider relocating. At the gym, he was pushing himself hard, worried about the state of his marriage. He had not put much effort into his business last year, but Beverly never let him explain why. She was unaware that he had purposely not sought out new customers, and his regular ones were okay with that. By luck, he met Sal Solomon and his wife Susan after leaving the gym. Sal was one of his earliest customers. They remained close friends for years, even after their initial meeting as customer and salesman. Dave considered Susan to be like family. He once told her she was very clever, something he wished he had been in his own youth. This heartfelt comment strengthened their bond, with Dave proudly introducing her as his favorite aunt to others. Susan would respond with a cheerful giggle, while Sal, another friend, would smile at her playful behavior. The sight of Susan always brought a pleasant surprise. "It's great to see you. Are you here for work or fun? I'm glad to tell you we just came out of the theater. I've always wanted to see The Odd Couple. This touring version of the play is said to be the best revival. When we realized they were coming here but might miss us, we had to come." Sal just smiled. He told Dave that his main job was to make his wife happy, with his business supporting that goal. He always remembered birthdays and anniversaries, and even gave his employees time off to celebrate their special occasions. On their wedding anniversary, they received a half-day off, followed by a full day off to rest and recover. He made sure to compensate his employees for their days off, resulting in the lowest turnover rates in the state. Vacancies only became available when someone left. Every woman received roses and chocolates on her birthday, while every man got a gift related to his interests, like golf balls, fishing gear, or cigars. Executives visited Dave's business to see how he worked. Some kept doing things their way, but a few decided to do things like Dave. They asked Dave to join them. For an hour and a half, he forgot about his worries and saw what a good relationship looked like, but then they mentioned Dave's problem. Susan was confused, and Sal seemed a bit annoyed. "You used to be one of our top people," they said. "I don't get it. She didn't get why I did it. She wouldn't even let me explain. I got fired by Sal in front of everyone, making things very awkward around here. I might have to leave this place soon." Susan raised a question. "Have you told Beverly about your plans? Would she come along?" "No, she's in the dark. Plus, she wouldn't leave her partner. Susan, I want to trust that she hasn't been unfaithful to me, at least not in a physical way. Her true love seems to be her job, which has given her opportunities and rewards I can't match." Sal paused, then suggested, "Grant, since you're free right now, why don't you come visit me in the next few days? I might have something that could help you out." Grant accepted since he had nothing else going on. 3 days later, Dave was back in his office. He and Sal chatted about work for a bit. Then Sal asked a simple question. "Have you heard of the new company from South Korea?" Dave remembered meeting the owner's son at the airport. The company was trying to get into the American market. While we were waiting for a late flight, we got talking and he showed me some things he was working on. I noticed it was similar to what my company does. Luckily, his focus was on the West Coast, not where I operate. He seemed nice, but he came to the U.S. because his dad wanted him to. He went around knocking on doors and trying to adapt to American customs. He had some people with him, but they were all in the same boat of not knowing much. Dave helped him out a bit. Dave felt relieved when they moved him to Chicago in the Midwest. His items were top-notch and cost nearly 30% less than the competition. Beverly and Dave were there. Dave sensed that Sal's question was meaningful. As for Grant, he was familiar with them. "I'm acquainted with the owner's youngest son, but we haven't spoken in a year," he shared. Sal seemed slightly bashful. "They're spreading into our region. I spoke to some people who have tried their product, and they all seemed happy with it. I haven't replied to them mainly because of you. Although your prices are higher, you have always been trustworthy. You consistently delivered on time and followed up if any issues arose. Stuart and a few others also listened to your advice when you showed them the newest version. We have been working on improving our tools for most of the year by using up our old supplies. I'm not sure about the others, but I have enough supplies for about a month until I switch completely. We are in a special situation where our new tools fit better with our plans than the tools from the old company. I wanted to talk to you about something important. Instead of selling, I have a job offer and I value your advice. What if you consider buying from us? Our purchasing manager is retiring and we haven't found someone with your sales experience yet. Your knowledge will help prevent vendors from exploiting us. People are familiar with you and your good reputation. It will reduce the need for negotiating. What was your highest earning year before you lost your job? Dave was surprised when asked. No worries. I can even offer more money with additional performance bonuses. Would you like to give it a shot? Even if it doesn't succeed or you realize it's not the right fit, having experience in both areas of the business will enhance your resume. Dave eventually chose to take a chance. He was feeling a bit excited about relocating to another state, the first time he had felt excited since losing his job. Returning to his apartment, he actually felt content to be there. Her old house represented her achievements, subtly reminding him that they could only afford it because she earned more. Dave pondered the upcoming hearing, questioning his motives. Was he seeking justice or revenge? Perhaps a mix of both. He was aware that if he succeeded, it would mean the end of Beverly's career. If she kept her job, she wouldn't advance further in the company. Losing would mean a long road to recovery. Would he feel good if he won? Likely. But would he be okay with harming her career and reputation? He decided to distance himself a little, not because of their identity, but to teach her about respect for others and that the world doesn't only focus on her. Reflecting on when they started their relationship, he recalled a young woman full of energy who set goals for herself. Her determination matched her skills. He remembered the time when she received her first job promotion. He took her out to dinner to celebrate at a fancy restaurant they usually couldn't afford. She was hesitant, but then Dave revealed his first bonus check, proving that hard work pays off for everyone in the company. The memory of that day was still vivid in his mind. The excitement of being young, deeply in love, and feeling like they were on cloud 9. After they relaxed together, her head on his chest, he played with her hair, feeling hopeful about the future. Sadly, things didn't improve. Dave noticed each promotion pulling her further from him. Her outfits became fancier, with professional help for her makeup and hair. She would get upset if he tried to kiss her before they went out to events, with all the focus on her. He often felt left out and useless standing by. Eventually, he decided to stop going to most events, only joining for the very significant ones. Dave was angry at first, thinking it gave the wrong impression, but then he turned it around to make it seem like it was her suggestion. He was very upset. When he heard about it later, she said to others that he didn't join because he felt shy about not being able to participate in the discussions. He attended all the events for some time, trying to meet important people for her clients especially. They talked about things she didn't know he knew about. Eventually, she asked him to take it easy so that the attention could be on her. Today was the day, Beverly thought, as she made her way to the conference room at the nearby state employment office. Her job might end depending on how the talk went because she hadn't seen her husband in almost 3 weeks and was taken aback by how he looked. He had shed some weight, grown his hair a bit, and had a neat beard that gave him a smart and youthful appearance. It seemed like a really attractive woman was sitting next to him. But Bev understood that appearances can be tricky. The woman's name was Amanda Austin, a very skilled and intimidating lawyer who specializes in labor law. Amanda was mainly there to watch and learn, getting more information for the case she was preparing. Beverly had brought along the top employee from our company to match her skills. He had helped her prepare for the questions about what happened and why she did what she thought was right for the company. She wondered how they would fare. He thought it was a disaster waiting to happen. No documentation, warnings, or explanations about what would happen if she didn't improve. The last review he got was really good according to the company rules. When letting him go, it would have been better to have his manager do it with someone from human resources there as a witness. He had the right to appeal to someone higher up in the company, which in this situation would have been you. By firing him without giving him a chance to appeal, you broke company rules again. I checked your file before coming here and you had excellent reviews. The leaders at the home office and the board think highly of you. However, you made a mistake that even a new graduate wouldn't make. I'll try my best to help, but if he decides to be difficult, we can't change his mind. Have you spoken to him recently? He didn't realize how this could harm you in the long run. Beverly had to admit she hadn't thought about it then, which made him frown more. He likely knew the consequences if things took a turn for the worse. Everyone took their seats as the meeting began with an arbitrator who had a video camera ready to capture everything. She began by saying she was an arbitrator from the State Employment Commission. She clarified that any agreement made wasn't final until it was written and notarized. If no agreement could be reached, or if someone disagreed with her decision, they could go to the Capitol or pursue lawsuits as a last resort. To start, she expressed gratitude to the person from Human Resources for sending her the company's termination policy in advance. This allowed her to understand the procedures before others shared their thoughts. She had some questions for Mr. Waxman and Miss Patterson. She mentioned that they were once married to each other. Beverly confirmed this with a strong yes, while Dave only nodded. She then asked Beverly to share more about their relationship. How has this situation affected your marriage? Do you think your husband's actions are fair? I want to resolve this before it becomes a legal matter. When Dave stayed quiet, Beverly began speaking. We are married and plan to stay that way. This has definitely affected our marriage. He moved out and hasn't communicated with me since then, and that's why we are here now. I told him many times that what I did was just work and shouldn't affect our personal life. I don't know why he's acting like this. The person deciding the case thought the lady was not thinking clearly. How could it not affect their relationship? She said he was not important to the business, fired him after 9 years, and was confused by his reaction. She asked Mr. Waxman if he had anything to say. but he said he couldn't talk about his personal life on his lawyer's advice. The meeting was just to talk about his complaint of being fired unfairly. So Miss Patterson asked her to explain what happened when she fired Mr. Waxman and why she did it. Dave spoke with his boss, Bob Adler, about Mr. Waxman's poor sales performance over the past year. His supervisor was surprised by the bad numbers, and after a detailed conversation with his manager, they both decided to fire Mr. Waxman. She mentioned it was a tough choice for her, but she had to prioritize the company's needs. The arbitrator wanted proof, but she didn't have any to show. Ms. Patterson, what if this worker had a great track record for 8 years, but then his sales dropped? In this situation, wouldn't you be curious to find out why a long-term employee's performance had suddenly declined? Perhaps he deserved a chance to improve his sales. The company manual clearly outlines a probation period with specific details on expectations and consequences for not meeting targets, along with regular monthly check-ins to track progress and offer support. This scenario is explained in detail in the manual. The HR team sent me 4 long-time employees. Beverly seemed uneasy when responding to my questions. It's true they have been here for 5 years or more. However, as the CEO, I can let go of any employee whenever I want. The drop in numbers was alarming, and I was worried about losing important clients. Unfortunately, that is precisely what is occurring. I felt like I had to take action. The arbitrator looked at Dave and asked if the situation made sense. Dave smiled and disagreed, saying there was a good reason the numbers were low. He tried to explain this to Miss Patterson at work and at home, but she said it wasn't his concern. Dave then asked why the numbers had decreased so much. It may sound surprising, but we had a plan. We were launching a better product, but we still had a lot of the old version left. To convince customers to try the new one, I offered a discount on the old product to make space in our inventory. I have statements from 4 customers confirming this. When they sold enough of the old stock, they planned to buy lots of new stock. It was beneficial for all. They bought the old items at a lower price and then earned more money when they ordered the new items. So, yes, I relaxed a bit, played golf, and had dinners with clients. As we talked about how much we expect to sell, I always remembered that I need to look out for my company's best interests. I asked for my boss to be here, but he's not. I can't make him come to this casual meeting, Mr. Waxman. Can you prove what you're saying? Amanda Austin took some papers from her bag and gave them to the arbitrator. As she looked them over, she seemed worried. The lawyer from the company tried to interrupt her, but she reminded him that this wasn't a court. He reluctantly agreed to wait until she was done. She promised to give him a document afterwards, and he looked even more concerned. They kept arguing until the mediator stopped them. She sighed and leaned back in her chair. I've heard and seen everything. Miss Patterson, you broke the rules when you fired him. In legal terms, you didn't give him a fair chance. In my opinion, Mr. Waxman was fired for no good reason and without following company rules for his rights. So, I want you to give him his job back without any blame and pay him for the time he was away from work. You can challenge this if you want, but you'll need to go to the main city for a trial. Does anyone disagree? I felt sad. Beverly said no. Dave said his piece. I'll take the money owed to me, thank you. I don't want to go back to that job because it wasn't a good place to work. I have a new job now that I like a lot. She was in a tough situation. They understood her job was in danger, and she might only remain with the company if she was fortunate. Afterwards, her lawyer and Dave's talked briefly, and he looked serious when he came back. In the office, they sat down in a meeting room where he explained the situation. The hearing went as I thought it would. It's important that you give him the payment promptly. Amanda said they are taking legal action against us, naming you and the company in the lawsuit. I suggested we meet to resolve the issue, but it seems your husband prefers to go to court and make it public. This means anyone can find out about it. How many skilled people do you think will see that and not apply for the job? I'm not sure what to do next. Usually, offering money would resolve the issue, but that won't work this time because it's more than just money. You should talk to your husband quickly and persuade him to help us figure something out. I would contact him if I knew how to reach him. He left me, got a new number, and disappeared. None of our shared friends have heard from him or seen him lately. I didn't know he had a new job, which is surprising in this small town. I'll reach out to a couple of his friends. I told them it was very important, but I don't know if they will help. He said he would come back with the papers and take Jen out for lunch to make her feel better. It didn't really cheer her up. Jen cleverly changed the subject by talking about the upcoming trip to Solomon Industries. "The old man has always been fond of you, Beth. Here's some advice. Try to be more friendly to him. He may like you, but he's not a fan of Adler. It's a known fact. If Dave didn't step in, Adler might have already made him leave." Beverly felt confused and overwhelmed. As the CEO, she wondered why she didn't know that information. A thought began to form. Maybe she should have listened more to Dave when he spoke about his work. This realization only came to her after drinking half a bottle of scotch. She had been downplaying his role for some time now, and she was now grappling with the reasons behind their disagreements. He struggled to understand the impact of his actions on the woman he cared about. She might lose her job because of what he did. He felt guilty for ruining something so important to her, like her job title as CEO on her business card. He felt justified. She caused this situation by herself. What happened was worse than how she would treat a regular worker. Eventually, her pride and self-importance would lead her to make a similar mistake with someone else. Perhaps she will learn from this and see it as a lesson. With that part of their lives behind them, Dave questioned whether they could move on and stay together. He realized he couldn't go back to the way things were. It had to be a real partnership or nothing at all. He was certain he didn't want to live in her extravagant house anymore. It was just a symbol of her achievements. Quite unfortunate, really. It would have been a good place to raise kids. At least he was happy about the money he was going to receive. He had almost 5 months' worth of back pay coming to him, which was a nice sum. Amanda wanted to settle things with him directly instead of going to court. She believed that the greatest revenge was to live happily. They had sued the company for a large sum of money, and she predicted they might offer 20% to avoid negative publicity. She discovered the company was merging with a rival, and this situation would significantly affect their value in the future. Getting rid of Beverly now wouldn't make much difference, but it could make things look better for them. Dave enjoyed the new town a lot. It was smaller than the city he moved from and much calmer. The folks there were nicer, and he was happy with his job there. The housing market was down, which meant he could get a bigger house for less money than he would have in his hometown. He smiled at the idea. What did back home even mean now? Dave was considering buying a house that had been on the market for almost a year. It was an older 2-story house on 6 acres of land. He didn't need a lot, but owning it would be enjoyable. The owners wanted to sell soon, and he thought he might be able to negotiate a great price. After looking it up online, he found out it was in decent shape, just needed some work on the roof. Even though it was 2 decades old, it seemed sturdy. If he purchased it, he planned to change the roof shingles to tin. It was popular, and he loved remembering staying at his grandparents' farm in the summer, falling asleep to the sound of rain on the roof at night. Dave rarely dreamed, but this time he remembered. In his dream, he was on the front porch of a house with a woman. They were on a rocking chair watching 3 children, 2 girls and a boy, playing with a ball in the yard. There were 2 dogs, one big and one small, running around with the children. A big calico cat sat on the railing, looking uninterested, but still seemed to care for them all. He went to kiss his partner, but found she didn't have a face. Startled, he woke up and tried to understand the dream. He then got ready to go to the gym before work. Beverly had a rough night's sleep and saw dark circles under her eyes as she prepared for a busy day ahead. She thought maybe it was just from stress, but if the changes stayed, she knew a good doctor to help. In her line of work, it was important to look young, like 25 years old with 15 years of experience. She was excited about what the future held. The lawyer did some digging on Bob and had some troubling news to share. He was discussing job issues with the company they were merging with as the contracts were being signed. The instructions from the company were straightforward: get rid of the problem right away. But this time, Bev was well prepared. Jack, their legal representative, and Angela, a human resources expert from corporate, were by her side to ensure everything went smoothly. Bev felt annoyed that they were there. She could handle it by herself, but she realized having them around might be helpful. Bob was shocked to learn he wasn't going with her to see Sal. Bev had to be honest with him. "Sal doesn't like you, Bob. I'm trying to make things right, and bringing you could make it worse. He was surprised, then became angry. "Forget about that old man, dear. His company isn't essential for us. Please remember to act professionally. I've never been your dear, so please stop that. If you believe losing 18% of our customers isn't a big deal, maybe you're not right for this job. You were quite upset when you found out. Consider this while I'm away, and don't forget we have to have a meeting when I come back. Stay available in case the timing changes. I'll give you a ring once I'm back." She found joy in seeing the expression on his face as she departed, and was eager to witness it again later when they confronted him, pushing him out of her thoughts as she drove. She focused on preparing her talk for Sal and the new person in charge of buying. It was crucial to get everything perfect for her to have a shot. Sal was already at the restaurant, even though Bev arrived 15 minutes early. He stood up and helped her to her seat, and she liked that. Dave had always been polite. He learned from a wise uncle who believed that good manners were always important. She missed that about him. They talked for a brief moment, but as she began discussing business, he interrupted. "Please, Beverly, let's wait for my purchasing director. I value his opinions and insights on this matter." He predicted the director's arrival any minute. And right on cue, there he was. Turning to welcome him, she found herself speechless. Dave was the new purchasing director. If she wasn't struggling already, he must have noticed how sad she was and spoke to her kindly. "Hello, Beverly. That dress looks great on you. You always shine in it. I guess it must be special to you, wearing it for important occasions." Beverly didn't know how to respond, so she shifted the conversation. "This is the job we discussed during a meeting. You work in purchasing now instead of being a salesman. It's like transitioning to the opposite side, but not as different as you might think. Sometimes it's amusing to see the surprise on salesmen's faces when they recognize me. I used to be in their shoes before. There isn't anything they can do to catch me off guard. This helps simplify things. They understand they can't trick me, so we can focus on talking about our deal. Let's have lunch together and discuss business after." Beverly felt strange eating with her husband, realizing she had control. She wondered if he ever felt the same way. After finishing dessert and sipping on coffee, Beverly began her speech. She mentioned the long time they have worked together, how they met sales demands, and assured they could keep providing great service in the future. Dave, showing leadership, let Beverly speak first, which she appreciated. Sal listened but interrupted halfway, acknowledging Beverly's words. "However, we should remember the company that initially won our business and served us effectively. I used to buy from them regularly, but things have shifted now. Let me explain. I did agree verbally with your salesperson in the past, but after he left, I no longer felt tied to that agreement. The South Korean company offers a superior product at a more favorable price. It doesn't meet our product requirements. My purchasing agent trusts the owner's son. Who will take Dave's place, Adler?" "I doubt it. I never felt comfortable with him and didn't trust him. Even if we continued working with you, I would want a different account representative." He stared down at her. "Beverly, I've always been fond of you, even when I didn't agree with everything you did. We can still be friends if you'd like. However, our professional relationship is ending. I have somewhere else to be, so I'm going now. You can keep discussing things with my purchasing agent if you want. Good luck to you." With a smile, he leaned over and gave her a kiss on the cheek. "He still cares about you," he said quietly, "but it will take time for him to trust you again. Do your best to make it right." Did Dave like the lunch? Yes, in many ways. Did he find pleasure in your distress? Only a little. It felt good to see her unsure and not as self-assured as usual. She glanced at him with a hint of sadness. "Do we stand a chance at all? Is this about work or personal matters? In terms of work, our odds are low. Their product is better in many aspects compared to ours. It costs less and is easily accessible. Even if I was still working there, we would have eventually started losing customers. You should talk to the company's leaders and consider changing your business strategy. Perhaps it's worth revisiting the idea I mentioned a year ago. Make changes to how things are made. Involve research and development more. It's important to innovate or your business might not survive for much longer." Dave saw her puzzled expression and realized she didn't remember his suggestion from months ago. He wasn't a business expert, but he could see the warning signs. Without power, arrogance and ego only hurt yourself. They sat quietly for a few minutes. "Dave," she asked softly, "can we talk about our relationship?" Dave almost chuckled but held back. He replied as kindly as he could, "What do you mean by us? You and me, dear. Why? I want us to be together again, so please come back home. I really miss you a lot." Others think she was shocked by what he said. Us? There hasn't been an us for almost 3 years. It was just me. I was there for fancy meals and gatherings. I was someone to return to at the end of the day, but that's all. I was like a small role in the story of your life. Our closeness faded away a long time ago. Beverly and I don't expect it to come back. We used to be intimate sometimes, but that changed. I never made the first move in the past 2 years. Not even once. I felt used, like I was only there to fulfill your physical needs. There was no intimate connection before or after. Once you were done, you were quick to turn away and sleep. Whether I enjoyed it or not, consider it honestly. Reflect on our actions and you'll understand my point. He saw different feelings on her face, but he kept talking about things he had wanted to say for a long time. As for going back home, I won't go back to that house. Whether we stay together or not, it never felt like a home. It was more like a symbol of your achievements. You always resisted when I tried to make things better. Actually, I have a bed now. Now I am in a house that I really like. It's an older 2-story house, which is maybe a bit too big for me, but it has plenty of space and a small piece of land. The best part is, there is already a building that would be great for the workshop I've always wanted, and space for the vegetable garden I've been dreaming of planting. I'm sorry, but after being in your shadow for 8 years, I have found joy in the spotlight. What does this mean for us? It's a sad situation, and he seems less upset now. I don't know what will happen next. I think we may not be a couple again. It's important to treat your partner well. I haven't felt that from you, both in our relationship and at work for some time. I don't want to be in the background anymore, Beverly. I want to be in the spotlight. I see now that I played a role in our situation. Back then, I cared for you so deeply that I accepted things just to see you smile. As I kept giving, you kept wanting more until I had nothing left. I think that's when you discovered you no longer needed me. You had reduced my importance in your life until I was invisible. It's okay, just continue as usual. Eventually, I'll just be a faint memory. He stood up and put his hand on my shoulder. Go back to the one you love, Bev. Your job and friendly advice. Stay away from Adler. He's not to be trusted. I don't know how he managed to confuse you, but take a step back and think. Why would he try to turn you against me? Consider that, and please don't stress about it. You've been working hard for this company for a long time. You might have to take a step back and make some changes. But remember, your value is still recognized by the company. Farewell, Beth. He hesitated briefly. I apologize. It seems that our paths are heading in different directions, Beverly. But honestly, it's all about business, you see? Her body tensed, and he questioned if she understood what he meant. Those were the same words she used when she let him go from his job. Wanting some time to think, Beverly decided to visit a park she passed by earlier, parked her car, located a bench, and reflected on her life. She felt proud of her achievements, remembering each time she got promoted through hard work. She aimed for the next level until she reached the top. But some of it also made her anxious. She missed important dates like anniversaries and birthdays, always saying she would make it up to Dave later. She neglected spending time with her parents, his parents, and their friends while focusing on work. She felt guilty when she saw the hurt in Dave's eyes as a young child approached him for comfort. He hugged the child, and Beth briefly imagined having kids with him. She quickly pushed the thought aside. If Dave didn't agree to stay home full-time, they wouldn't have kids. Beth had seen too many women with great potential getting pushed aside because they couldn't focus on work due to family commitments. Plus, she was 36 already, so it was likely too late for that. Suddenly, she sat up straight, shocked by a sudden realization. Dave was correct. He would never come first as long as she stayed on her current path. It must have felt like she had another lover, with her dedication leaving him in second place. It suddenly occurred to her that winning him back would be hard. She really wanted him back. She had made him feel unimportant, but he was always there for her, giving her comfort and making her feel special. The challenge now was figuring out how to fix things with him, how to heal his heart and ego. Could she manage having both a career and a marriage while making her husband feel important and content? It would be a tough challenge, but Bev was determined and focused. She believed she could accomplish anything if she worked hard enough. Watching the children play, a bittersweet expression crossed her face. After a while, her smile became genuine. The first thing she decided to do on her way back was to get rid of one of the snakes in her garden. She attempted to feel sorry for Bob, but couldn't. He had deceived her husband, herself, and the company. She wasn't as gullible as he thought, but she had to admit she was self-absorbed enough to let him flatter her ego. His past wrongdoings were catching up to him. She scheduled a meeting with the lawyer and HR person who were already there when she returned. She understood that handling the situation with Bob would involve difficult decisions and unpleasant news. She was prepared to face whatever came her way. She had faced challenges in the past, but that day, they didn't bother her as much as before. Bob came in looking happy, but his expression changed when he noticed who was in the room. Angela was new to him, although Jack was familiar. Bev introduced Angela as someone from corporate HR who would be overseeing the meeting. "We heard troubling things about what you've been up to lately. To be fair, we want to listen to your side of the story." Jack spoke up and mentioned that he wasn't sure how you found out about the merger discussions. "However, it seems like you went straight to their company and said bad things about our CEO and our company. You were trying to get a job there. Their representatives approached us concerned about the situation, so we are aware of everything that happened. Negotiations are currently paused as we address internal issues. They have stated that in order for talks to proceed, you must leave without any recommendation. They fear that if you can mistreat us, you may do the same to them later on." Bob turned red as he finally spoke up. "So you know, let me guess, I'm getting fired." "Of course." "Well, at least this time everything's clear. I know you'll explain the appeal process, but I won't bother. I'll leave. Your company was right to let go of me. If things don't change a lot in the next 3 years, there won't be anything left to make a profit from." He smiled at Beverly, making her feel uneasy. "You got too comfortable, girl. I manipulated you, stroking your ego, working against your weak husband, even though he was great at sales. I'm relieved I didn't get involved with you. You wouldn't be good in bed. You care too much about yourself to make anyone else happy. I might have pretended you were attractive until I left you. But it's fine now. I'll go today and tell payroll where to send your final paycheck. Take care, Beth." Bev turned red with anger. Dave often said that phrase, and she didn't understand it until Bob heard him and explained. "It's a saying from China. Exciting times mean trouble, like revolutions and famine. Boring times mean peace and stability." Bev tried to stay calm as she replied, "You too, Mr. Adler. And there's one more saying I want to share. Cheaters never win. Instead of trying to find easy ways out, work hard for what you want. Farewell, Jack." Beverly stood up and left. Bob was angry and about to speak, but Angela stopped him. "It's time for action, not words. Adler, I need you to sign some papers before you can go. Please don't cause any trouble." Seeing the 2 big security guards made him realize it was best to cooperate. They got a great deal on the house they purchased. He quickly approved the roofing contractor he had asked for advice from. 2 weeks later, the Gray family praised the paint color he picked for the outside. He removed the carpet and restored the old hardwood floors. The house had a big porch, so Dave put up ceiling fans to keep it cool during the hot summer months. He liked watching the sun go down. He thought about buying the house with the money he got from work and some of his savings as a first payment. However, he would have had to pay off the rest over 15 years. In the end, he listened to his lawyers and agreed to settle the matter out of court. The amount wasn't as big as they wanted because that part of the business wasn't making much money anymore. He had saved enough money to buy the house he wanted, make renovations, and still have some savings left after receiving his severance pay and adding in his existing savings. Another issue they faced was disagreeing on having a shared bank account. Bev preferred separate accounts, so they both contributed a fixed sum to a household fund instead. He thought about what would happen if they broke up. He knew he would get half the house's worth since they didn't sign a prenup. Their incomes were very different, so he might also receive some financial support for a while. He smiled, imagining how much money he could get. He eventually agreed to let her handle the paperwork since she made all the decisions in their relationship. Why would things change now? He discovered he was good at his new job with his experience in sales paying off. Surprisingly, 75% of the salespeople he worked with really liked him. He was upfront and honest. He didn't take gifts or favors. He refused to work with anyone who tried to bribe or trick him into buying a subpar product. Overall, he just wanted a fair price and great service. People who were honest and fulfilled his requests got Dave's business. The remaining 25% soon realized that Dave didn't need fancy dinners, trips to clubs, or golf at fancy places. Some people liked and understood Dave's way of doing things. Others were too set in their ways and lost his business. Sal was a big fan of Dave. Their costs for materials and services were 20% less. They usually met deadlines, and Dave had vendor technicians visit to give advice, which they followed about half the time. Employees liked Dave because their work was simpler and they earned more in bonuses. Susan often invited him over for dinner, pushing him to discuss his family problems. Sal avoided talking about it, but Susan persisted. She kept asking him when he would forgive the girl and bring her back home. She felt the girl had gone through a lot. The girl often called Sal once a week, asking about his well-being during their conversations. "Are you happy?" When she asks if you're dating, I tell her what you said honestly, even though she sounds sad. "You don't want to go out with any women until you take off your ring." Dave put up with it a few times before he started to get annoyed. "Susan, I really respect you a lot. If there was a category for the perfect wife, your picture would be in it. However, I need to ask you something. When you married Sal, you had a good job, and he said you kept working for 6 more years before deciding to stay home with the kids. Sal went through similar challenges that Beverly is dealing with now. But did he ever shut you out? Do you forget special dates like anniversaries or birthdays? Has Sal ever prioritized his work over you and your family? Did he ever downplay the things you do for the relationship?" Dave stopped talking and listened for a response. She finally confessed that there were a few times in their marriage when work took precedence, but he made up for it by showing extra love to her and the kids afterward. "However, I didn't have the same support." She would say, "Deal with it. This comes first." I ended up losing longtime friends and relationships to her job commitments. I am slowly becoming more comfortable with having friends once more. It feels nice to say yes to invitations for small gatherings, even though they may seem ordinary to others. These moments are important to me. We aren't meeting for business reasons, we simply spend time together and have fun. I have a nice home that I adore and where I can pursue my hobbies. Finally, I have fulfilled my dream of planting a small garden after wanting to do so for many years. Do I not miss her then? I do. I recall the small moments from before she mattered so much. The spontaneous trips for fun, which often meant being intimate in a new place. The talks about life we once had when we agreed on things. I remember it all. But those memories are fading, and what sticks out now are her self-centeredness and pride. She behaves like a famous athlete who believes all the things people say about her. She wants me to come back to her, but why? Susan, if she truly wants me, why hasn't she reached out to me yet? She's acting like a queen, waiting for her knight to come back to her. If she's not willing to try to save our failing marriage, how much does she really want it? I haven't heard from her at all. She doesn't seem too upset about it. Mohammed should visit us instead. I care for you both. Your husband is my boss. However, we won't talk about Beverly anymore after this. Please excuse me." He spoke calmly, but the message was clear. Stop talking about it. Sal thought for a moment. Susan felt embarrassed and blushed. As he was about to leave, she stood up and hugged him unexpectedly. "I'm sorry, Dave. I won't ask you again, but I disagree. She really misses you a lot. The thing is, she's scared to reach out to you. She doesn't know how to start a conversation, and she's afraid you'll be mad at her. I'll give her a call later and let her know what you've said. I promise. This time, I won't interfere anymore." She smiled and gave him a kiss on the cheek. "You're excelling at work, and I don't want to cause any disruptions. Your hard work has made a big difference to our retirement savings. Keep it up." Dave never even thought that Sal was considering retirement. He was a little bit older than 50, and his daughter was getting ready to begin her job soon. There was a rumor going around that once he was confident in his daughter taking over, he would sail away into the sunset. Dave briefly thought about working with another Beverly and wondered if he could manage it. Once more, Beverly returned home to an empty house, ate takeout, and pretended to watch TV. She narrowly avoided getting in trouble. The boss and 2 board members suddenly arrived, surprising everyone at the office. She was nearly overwhelmed when they asked her to join them in the meeting room. She felt anxious, like a student facing the principal. Their serious looks didn't help her feel better. Finally, after a moment, the head board member spoke. "Okay, Beverly, share with us the story and explain the reasons behind it. It's crucial to be honest. Don't try to cover it up or you may face consequences. We believed in your honesty. Don't make us question it now." After a few breaks to calm down, she finally confessed. She had nothing to gain by lying, so she decided to come clean. She realized she had let her pride cloud her judgment, depended on people who didn't care about the company and ended up being deceived. They acted relieved when the situation was resolved, showing sympathy. "How are things going at home? Have you resolved your argument?" This led to more tears. The chairman placed a box of tissues in front of Beverly, who quietly thanked him as she wiped her nose. "No, I haven't spoken to my husband for weeks. He moved to a new town for a new job and bought a house there. The chairman thought Dave was a nice guy. It was surprising for him to ignore your attempts to make peace, as your face showed embarrassment, and you were silent." The chairman sighed and said it was time to accept your resignation. "2 things I liked about you were your skill in solving problems and your determination to reach your objectives. You clearly don't want your husband back. Plus, someone who is unsure and indecisive isn't fit for a leadership role. Remember when you were unstoppable not too long ago, featured in the Times for your success?" His words hurt, but she knew he was right, so she held back from reacting. He noticed her blushing face and the way she clenched her jaw before laughing. "There you are. I thought I had lost you," he said. "Listen carefully, Bill. You're not in a stable position. Right now, Jack and I are the only ones backing you up, and we've taken a risk for you. Don't ruin it for us. You still have your job, but don't expect a good review or a bonus this year. You do have another opportunity. Before you feel too relieved, please listen to what we have to say. This part of the company was heading towards failure. Beverly, we know about the South Koreans and how they could harm us. If we continue as we are now, we will go out of business in 3 years. That's why we chose to sell this part of the company while it was still doing well. Your mistake completely stopped everything. Because of what you did with the suit and Snake, betraying us is not good. The discussions about combining our companies will not happen now. You have to find a new direction for the division, create new things to sell, and plan for the future. I'll be very straightforward with you about this. Just do your best," he said gently. "You have a year to prove yourself. We believe in you, Beverly." Overwhelmed, she hugged them all, promising to give her all. After everyone else left, she hugged the chairman. He held her hands after they separated. "I want to give you some advice. It's not about work. If you truly want to be with Dave again, you'll need to reach out to him. He might not come to you because his pride was hurt. Remember, he holds the power now. He has a nice job, great friends, and a promising future. You need to prove to him that you want to be equals, and you need to be sincere about it. If you slip up once, it will be the end. I think you just made a mistake. But Dave is very clever. He predicted that this department would face problems last year. We talked about it briefly last time I visited. He brought up a South Korean company and suggested ways to make us more competitive in the market. I thought it was a good idea and suggested he discuss it with you. I don't think they ever had that conversation, which is why we're talking about it now. Call me if you need materials, and I'll provide them if I believe it's necessary. Remember what I mentioned? Discuss matters privately and choose wisely." After the meeting, she returned to her office. Jen was waiting, so Beverly assured her that not everything was negative, but she required some time to organize her thoughts. She told Jen not to disturb her for the day. With determination, she focused on her goal, how to make Dave love her again. The first step was easy. She asked Susan Beverly to help her, and together they found Dave's Facebook page and began chatting with him. She knew he used part of his extra money from work to buy an old car. He was fixing it up bit by bit in his new garage, sharing the progress online. When he needed a new bumper, she searched all the websites. Cost didn't matter. If it meant reconnecting with him, she would spend any amount. Fortunately, luck was on her side when a man reached out to her, revealing the car's front. The front part was flawless, but the back was severely damaged due to a hidden ride taken by two of his young relatives. Upon realizing the cost of repairs, he abandoned it in a field for half a year. Surprisingly, the inside was in great shape, and the front shined like new. Beverly quickly bought it after haggling down the price. It cost nearly $1,000, but Beverly was skilled at bargaining. She carefully planned with Susan to get a good deal. Dave invited colleagues and some neighbors to his BBQ, where he proudly displayed his new gas grill and clay oven. Susan casually asked if she could bring a friend, and he agreed easily. "Just don't let it cause problems," Susan warned Beverly. "If he gets mad, it could make things awkward between him and Sal. Luckily, he doesn't know my friend." I assured him that you would join us at his place, promising that if things didn't go well, you would leave right away. Beverly finalized her arrangements. She tried on many outfits before realizing it was just a casual get-together. Opting for comfort, she chose a lovely sundress in light blue, his preferred color. The dress ended just before her knees, showing a lot of her legs when she sat down. He always liked her legs. She only wore a little makeup to emphasize her eyes. Her hair was down, longer than she remembered. She had on her engagement ring, wedding band, and a diamond necklace he gave her when they first started dating. Beverly felt a bit nervous as she arrived at his house. It was her first visit, and she was amazed by its size. She wondered why a man, who was almost single and without children, would have such a large house. The house had an old-fashioned charm, with gravel paths and a porch swing on the big porch where a few people were chatting. They watched Beverly with interest as she approached the door. They were curious about who she might be. Just as she was about to knock, the door suddenly opened, and there he was, looking surprised. It had been 10 weeks since they last saw each other. Before he could say anything, she quickly spoke up. "Hello, please don't be upset. Susan invited me and I really wanted to see you. If you want me to leave, just say so, but please let me stay." He paused, then smiled. "Come inside, Beverly. I want to give you a tour of my home, and later we should have a conversation. Do you agree?" He gently reached out his hand, and she grabbed it tightly as if it was her lifeline. He winced, but didn't withdraw. He introduced his wife to everyone, and some were shocked to learn he was married. She looked down and felt relieved to see his wedding ring still on his finger. Perhaps their relationship had a chance. She released her grip when Susan pulled her away to chat. They shared more secrets, and Susan comforted Beverly with kind words. "You've caught him off guard a bit. Make sure he stays like that. Keep him distracted so he doesn't dwell on the past. Keep his attention on you by being loving. If he seems hesitant, give him space to adjust to you again. Got it?" Beverly thought it was good advice, so she agreed. She searched for him and eventually found him in the backyard. His yard was huge, much bigger than theirs or hers. It was well kept, with his building gleaming with a new paint job and a matching tin roof. When she spotted him, she paused to watch. He emerged from the building holding a fancy bird feeder in one hand and a little girl of about 3 or 4 in the other. She hugged him tightly, laughing and giving him kisses on his cheeks. His smile made Beverly realize something painful. They were too old to have children. She felt a pang of regret for prioritizing her career over starting a family. She had to accept the reality and let go of her wish for kids. Taking a deep breath, Beverly tried to clear her mind. To ensure they both focused on the present, she made sure to do the same. If they decided to reconcile, adopting a child was always an option. With a clear mind now, her previous feelings of power and arrogance had faded away. If he was still interested in having a family, they could consider adopting a child of the right age, maybe even more than one. "Who's your girlfriend, sweetie?" she asked, unsure if he noticed the endearment, but he smiled. "This is Ari, a lovely young woman who's my friend. Although I'm a bit older than her, I can see trouble ahead when she gets older." He handed her an object and asked if she could manage it alone. If not, she could ask her sister for help. He reassured her that he would come back the next day to help put it up. She greeted Beverly with a sweet, excited voice and went over to a pretty young woman, chatting happily and pulling her hand. They came up to Beverly and Dave, smiling. "Thanks, Dave," she said. "You can't imagine how much it means to her. She spends hours watching the birdhouse you gave her, and she was so happy when a family of bluebirds made it their home. Also, she has been using the bird book you gave her a lot. I had to help her read the names, and now she knows them by heart." When we're out, she likes to point out the birds she recognizes. She knows robin, bluebird, English, sparrow, and crow. Her preschool is really impressed with her knowledge. They arranged a trip to the nearby aviary, and she wants you to join us. If you can take time off work, we will try to make it work on my end, too. I would like to help. I better leave now. She will be full of energy. It will need both of us to manage her." The lady seemed young, maybe still a teenager. To put it simply, the girl had a good figure and was not shy about showing it off. Her shorts were not too short and her top covered her up, but it did not hide her attractiveness. She also had the most beautiful lips Beverly had ever seen. She was ready to explode when the lady touched his arm and leaned in to give him a kiss. He blushed, and Beverly was angry to see her lipstick mark on his cheek. The lady smirked at her, and Beverly realized she was trying to provoke her. "You must be his wife," she said. "Sorry, but we thought you were made up for a while. I'm Marcia, Dave's neighbor." Beverly had to really hold herself back. Beverly resisted the urge to slap the smirk off her face. "I'm alive and kicking. Get used to seeing me around." They locked eyes until she grinned and walked away confidently. Beverly turned to Dave, annoyed and about to complain, but was shocked by his smug expression. It was time to stand up for herself. She recently turned 18 years old. Her parents were addicted to drugs, and one day they took too much and got very sick. Now she lives with her grandfather, who isn't sure how to take care of her. I care for her, and I love her younger sister. It concerns you. In what way does it bother you? You didn't get in touch with me for 11 weeks and barely said much for the past 2 years. I thought you decided I was a mistake and forgot about me." Beverly was going to speak up, but couldn't. She just started crying and left. He always saw things in terms of business. She knew why, but didn't want to think about it. Then Susan came in. I shot lasers at Dave and guided Beverly into the bathroom to help her calm down. She noticed the big whirlpool tub and imagined how nice it would be to relax in it, especially with Dave. After taking a moment to collect herself, she felt better, especially when she recalled how he had complimented her earlier, which he rarely did. She couldn't recall exactly when it happened, but it had been some time. She mentioned this to Susan. Susan informed her that he had opened up about his feelings at last, which she viewed as a positive development. She felt she deserved the criticism, even though it was hard to hear. She had come to work on fixing her marriage, so backing away wasn't the right way to begin. "Hey, Susan, don't get involved. Whatever happens, it's like a tough fight. I'll face the challenges and keep trying my best. Who knows? Maybe things will turn out in my favor. Or maybe you'll face some difficulties. Stay strong, and if things get tough, try different tactics. That's how you'll get noticed." Beverly returned to the party and saw Dave sitting at a table with an older man named Ari sitting on his lap. Beverly asked Dave to stay seated and sat next to him. Ari looked at Beverly and then touched her necklace. The older man told Ari to stop bothering Beverly. Beverly surprised both of them by showing them a bracelet, and Ari moved closer. She asked if they liked it. She received the bracelet a while back, and it's very special to her. It's beautiful. Maybe one day someone special will give you something like this, like how Dave did for me. If you treasure it, think about who gave it to you and why whenever you see or wear it. Can you wear it for a little while if you promise to be careful? Promise? Her daughter looked up at Beverly, serious and focused. "I promise." Beverly positioned her facing her, turning away from Dave. "Honey, can you lend a hand?" He seemed confused. Beverly felt unsure about what to say. She didn't need to say anything. The woman named Precious had already promised to handle things. Beverly could feel her hand trembling as she felt his fingers on her neck. It was the closest they had been in a while. She smiled as she gently put her arm around the young girl's neck, making her laugh and coo. She took the little girl to the hall and stood her in front of a big mirror to show her reflection. Ari clapped happily, making Beverly smile. It was easy to make a child happy with simple things. Ari then stayed close to Beverly, occasionally leaving to see her sister, who was chatting with a young man from Dave's workplace. They sat on the porch together, gently rocking in the chairs. She sang a familiar tune from her childhood, passing it on to her own daughter. Sensing someone watching, she glanced up to see Dave looking at her, his eyes teary. He quickly turned away, disappearing into the house. With her baby sleeping in her arms, she couldn't follow him, so she stayed on the rocker. After a short while, Dave returned, reaching out to help her up. Let's take her to her room for a nap now. She will wake up soon, full of energy. Beverly went with him to a room where he gently laid Ari down, tucking her in with a soft blanket so she wouldn't be scared when she woke up alone. She's aware of her surroundings. Once she wakes up, she will surely alert us. They both gazed at the peacefully sleeping child, standing close together. He was about to leave when Beverly stopped him, bringing his face close to hers and kissed him deeply, showing a lot of emotion. He was surprised at first, but then kissed her back with equal intensity. When they finally stopped, he looked puzzled, but Beverly silenced him with a gesture. Just feel the moment. Don't question it. She kissed him once more, then took his hand as she guided him out of the room. Marcia met them on the back deck, with a curious expression on her face. She's asleep, dear. We brought her in and she seems to be resting well, Beverly informed Marcia. Marcia looked at Beverly strangely and said, Thank you for being so kind to her. It's not something she's used to. Beverly was surprised and asked, Is that so? Dave mentioned that you weren't fond of children. Her eyes seemed to be filled with anger. Why did you share that private information before she was ready? He asked. That might not be accurate, Marcia, she replied. She never expressed a desire for children, but she is good with the few she interacts with. Marcia, why didn't you want kids? Remember to be polite. You don't know the woman enough to ask personal questions. Marcia felt bad and said sorry right away. It seemed like Dave was someone she cared about. Beverly felt moved when she saw Marcia looking so young and vulnerable. She surprised her by giving her a hug and comforting her. Don't worry, I understand you didn't mean any harm, Beverly reassured Marcia kindly. Come on, let's dry those tears and make you feel better, Dave said. Beverly took her back to the busy bathroom, where she gently dried her face with a cloth and towel. She spoke comforting words to help her relax. Marcia hugged her tightly, seeming scared to lose her. After Beverly felt better, she looked at herself in the mirror and wished she had smooth skin like younger people. She wasn't wearing any makeup and had her hair tied back in a ponytail. I'm good now. We can go back, she said. Just wait a moment. Undo your ponytail and I'll tidy it up a bit. Following Beverly's instructions, Marcia acted like a child, sitting in front of the mirror as Beverly gently fixed her hair without much thought. Beverly decided to style Marcia's hair with a fancy braid. She added some makeup, a touch of blush, mascara, and light pink lipstick. Marcia sat quietly, amazed by her transformation. When Beverly finished, Marcia looked like she belonged on a teen magazine cover. Impressive! What did you do to me? Beverly felt her lips tremble. Stop! Don't let your mascara smudge. I didn't do anything. You were always special. You just needed some encouragement. Let's go back and show them what you're made of. That guy you were chatting with will regret not sticking around to talk to you more. They probably stopped talking when they came back. After a while, more than one guy tried to get Marcia's attention. Beverly went back to Dave, standing with him as he started grilling. Were we as young as them once? Dave smiled sadly. If we were, I can't recall. It's nice to see them flirting. It sure does feel good, doesn't it? Watching them dance like that, even if you don't remember, I do. One special memory for me is when we had our first kiss. We were both 19 years old. I was new to love, but we moved fast from that point. I felt from our first date that we were meant to be together. Life got in the way, though. We both grew up and our focus shifted. All of a sudden, skipping work to have fun didn't seem as appealing as attending a meeting or arriving early to stay ahead of the competition. Being prepared for promotions was crucial, and missing out on a spur-of-the-moment road trip due to unfinished tasks from the previous week was necessary to make progress into the new week. Is this a positive or negative situation? Beverly and I have both grown up and now we're getting older. He suddenly paused, and she understood his thoughts. They were getting older, but their paths were not the same. She needed to change the subject quickly. Can you show me your garden? She asked. He smiled and invited her in. The garden was bigger than she expected, just like him, well kept and full of plants. She didn't know the names of the vegetables, so he told her. Black tomatoes, Rutgers tomatoes, and yellow tomatoes. They also had spaghetti squash, Italian squash, zucchini, French green beans, butter beans, bush beans, string beans, poblano peppers, and Cuban bell peppers. Marigolds help keep bugs away, and mulch is used to keep the soil moist and healthy. Almost no need to pull out weeds. Ari woke up from her nap. She pulled his pants, and he lifted her up right away. "Pick," she said, showing a yellow tomato. Dave carried her to it. He put her down gently. Beverly watched in amazement as the little girl grabbed the tomato and twisted it off carefully. Dave laughed and handed the item to Beverly. "She wants you to wash it before she eats," he explained. "I've taught her to always wash things before eating, even though I use natural pesticides in the garden." Beverly nodded in agreement. "That's a good habit to have," she said. Ari walked over to Beverly, holding out her hands. She hugged Beverly as they went back, facing Dave to hide her teary eyes. Maternal instincts kicked in, surprising her. Marcia approached, but Ari stayed with Beverly. "Okay, I'll assist Dave with the food while she eats her sandwich. Take her out. I'll keep a spot for you," Beverly said, walking away with a smile. Beverly, a tomato, found the bread and mayo. She sliced them and made a sandwich for her friend, Ari. Beverly watched as Ari added more tomato to the sandwich. She thought it might get messy. Carrying the plate outside, Beverly noticed Ari holding onto her sundress. Marcia saved a spot for Ari between her and Dave. Ari moved from one lab to another, enjoying half a sandwich, half an ear of corn with butter, and half a hot dog. Still a lot of food for her. It was messy, as Beverly predicted, and Marcia had to change Ari's clothes. They sat under party lights in the trees, watching the sun setting. She was shocked to see there was no alcohol. Dave whispered to her that it was because Marcia's grandfather used to drink too much but is getting better. After he left, Dave brought out a cooler with beer and 4 bottles of wine. It wasn't a lot for everyone, but it was enough for a nice time. He played music on the patio, filling the air with soothing tunes. Beverly leaned on Dave, feeling hopeful as he gently put his arm around her. She felt so happy she was almost in tears. Marcia, along with one of her admirers, and Sol and Susan were dancing on the grass. Different ages, finding joy together under the soft lights. The song switched to a familiar love song. Dave got up and took Beverly by the hand. They had danced to this song many times back in college. Beverly quickly took off her shoes. She found herself in Dave's embrace, feeling like she was 21 again. She hugged him tightly, tears streaming down her face as he brushed her hair back and gently touched her cheek. After the song finished, they stood together for a bit. She saw Susan looking surprised, and Marcia Grant had tears in her eyes. More tears came, and they ended up in a group hug, all sniffling, then heading to the bathroom again. It was becoming a regular thing. She began fixing her makeup but decided to wash her face instead. The guests said goodbye to Dave and thanked him for the nice evening. Marcia gave them a big hug before they left. When she let go, Marcia looked sad. Beverly asked her what was wrong. Marcia replied, "I wish you both were my parents. Maybe then I would have the love I need, like Ari will need. I'm scared now that I'm 18, worried about the support payment stopping. Ari will receive a small amount. Gramps is not happy that we are here. If he runs out of money, he will make us leave." Beverly was very surprised, and Dave looked very upset. "Marcia, remember what I'm telling you? I'm close by. If things get worse, come here right away. Right away. Got it? If I'm not around, make sure to lock the doors and give us a call. We will be for Ari. You see?" Beverly was surprised by what had happened and how their lives had changed. She embraced her once more and handed Marcia a card with her personal number written on it. "Keep this handy, and remember, anything you need, just give me a call. Do you understand?" She cried once more, then calmed down and held on to them one by one. After a while, she left, walking slowly with a heavy heart until she disappeared from view. Dave went to the porch swing, deep in thought. Beverly sat next to him, holding his hand. Despite being a tough CEO, when things became difficult, Dave was always there to help. What should we do about what he asked when he snapped out of thinking about the girls? We can't just leave them like that. What do you think we should do? I would take them in right away if I could. Why don't you? I'm not sure how it would all come together. She's 18 now, Beverly mentioned. She's an adult by law, so she can choose where to live. Now that she's an adult, she can ask the courts for full custody of Ari. If what she's saying is true, the grandfather might agree to avoid any trouble. Here's the plan. I'll handle the legal side since that's my expertise. You'll need to convince her to see the benefits of being an adult and doing what's right for both of them. Why not watch as an older man guides a young woman and child? It happened. Beverly finally showed some of her anger. Listen to me, Dave Waxman. You are not alone. You have a wife. She doesn't want to be called the ex-Mrs. Waxman. It took all of this for me to realize Dave and I plan to stay awake forever. I really missed you, darling. I realized that everything that went wrong was because of my actions. I didn't appreciate you enough for a long time. I made some wrong choices when I had a bit of power and it messed up my life. Tonight, I took the first step to make things right. Do you still have feelings for me? It seems like everyone needed to know the answer to that question. She was really scared of what you might say. The look on your face made her feel worried. I miss the way you used to be, not how you are now. If we try to start over, things will need to change a lot. Beverly, I want you to see me as an equal, not someone you should obey. I believe I deserve respect and more than the little time I've had from you lately. Once I left, I realized I don't want to return to that old life. I have no intention of ever going back to that house. I want to feel confident that if a choice needs to be made, you would always choose me over work. I doubt that you can, Beverly said, tears falling even though she tried not to cry. He held her hand and said, I want to give it another try. I miss waking up next to you, and the love we shared before work became the priority. We have a couple of tasks ahead of us. First, we should find a good marriage counselor to help us reconnect. We must agree on how we divide our time so we can always make time for each other. Do you think this plan makes sense to you? Are you okay with living in this house if we are back together? It was overwhelming. He wished to make their marriage better because he still cared about her. She cried uncontrollably for about 5 minutes until he comforted her by gently rubbing her back. After a while, she calmed down enough to respond to him. He waited, hoping she grasped what he said. He was determined to no longer be neglected if she wanted to remain married. He had to choose between his wife and the job. He didn't believe she could manage it. Her response caught him off guard. I mostly agreed. The house is good. However, without her, it feels empty. The drive will be tough at first, but I'll adjust. If it strengthens our marriage, I'll adapt fast. She let out a sigh. I'm lost, dear. I need help to get back home. Let's find a counselor together. Do you want to look for one or should I? We both need to agree before we make a decision. After a few minutes, she stopped crying and wiped her tears. One important thing we need to do is rebuild our closeness. Can I sleep over tonight? I want to wake up in the same place as you. Right now, you're my top priority. I made a mistake at work, but I still have a job. I have to work extra hard because I'm not doing well. I promise to be back home at a good time unless something really important comes up. If it does, I'll let you know right away. I will try my best to make sure this doesn't happen again. He trusted her but had some doubts. Honestly, after he got over feeling upset by her actions, he began to have old feelings return. They had been close for a long time, and in the end, he didn't want to lose that bond. He was considering seeing a counselor because they needed help. She seemed sincere, and he wanted to see if she truly meant what she was saying. You can use the room that Ari naps in. It comes with a private bathroom. If you need pajamas, we can find you a shirt. Ari declined the offer and opted to use the large whirlpool tub in the master bathroom instead. She believed soaking in the tub would help release her tension. Soon he found her in the tub, singing quietly. He thought about her beautiful voice and realized it had been a while since he last heard her sing. Singing always made her very happy. After 40 minutes, she came out wearing a short t-shirt, and they noticed him looking and playfully lifted it up as she left the room. Beth stood at the end of the bed at 2:30 in the morning, her giggles echoing down the hall. He was stunned by the sight of her bare butt. At 2:30 a.m., there was some moonlight shining through the window, illuminating her standing near the bed. Beth, I can't sleep knowing we're in the same house but not the same bed. Can I sleep with you, please? All I want is to cuddle and feel your arms around me. Please, Dave. He considered for a moment before escorting her back down the hallway. He had various options, but he chose to lift the blankets. She climbed into bed, shaking, and he hugged her closely. He felt her tears but remained silent. Shortly after, he noticed her breathing steady, indicating she had fallen asleep. He lay awake, pondering their future for a while before eventually drifting off with a smile. She woke up and questioned which hotel room she was in. Suddenly, she felt her husband's arms around her, and she remembered where she was, in bed with him. They were about to be close when their daughter burst into the room excitedly. "Dad, wake up!" Marcia stood at the doorway looking apologetic. "I'm really sorry. I told her to stay downstairs, but when I wasn't looking, she ran away." Dave smiled, gently tickling Ari. She squirmed and giggled, enjoying every moment. "Don't worry, Marcia. Now I have 2 lovely girls in bed with me. I'm so lucky," he said. Beverly noticed Marcia's face and sensed something was off. "What's the matter, honey?" she asked. Grandpa hasn't gone grocery shopping in a while. I wanted to ask if I could share some cereal with Ari." Marcia seemed very embarrassed. Beverly felt sorry for her. "Ari doesn't need cereal, my dear. She deserves a proper breakfast. Let us get ready, and then we'll make something for you both. Or we can go out if there isn't enough. Is that okay?" Marcia couldn't speak. She simply nodded and picked up a fidgety child. "Ari, it's time for juice. Mr. Dave and Mrs. Beverly are getting ready." Beverly turned around, looking upset. "I wanted to spend time together, but it's okay. Where's your robe? I thought you would have made sure there was enough food for the kids." She grabbed it from the closet hook and left quickly. They took a bit longer to leave after going to the bathroom. She was in the kitchen with all the cupboards open, looking upset. Dave almost mentioned being single meant not needing a full pantry, but decided against it. Beverly didn't wait. She went straight to her car to get what Dave referred to as the bag. Once at a work lunch, red wine spilled on her light blue dress. She had to leave, drive home, and change. Ever since then, she kept a bag in her car with 2 outfits, usually opting for something casual. She was reminding Dave to hurry up because they had kids to feed. Dave quickly showered and shaved. He waited by the door, impressed by her style. Beverly always wore nice clothes, sometimes showing off her fit body. They almost didn't go out to breakfast when they realized there was no car seat for Ari. When Dave mentioned they were close to a good breakfast buffet, Beth chose to sit in the back with Ari until they arrived. The girls ate a lot. Dave saw Beth's concerned look, realizing the kids hadn't eaten enough. Beth seemed upset, and Ari wondered if Dave was angry at her. Dave looked serious and explained to her that he was upset because she had finished the last pancake. But then he smiled and reassured her that they could easily get more. Beth insisted they stop at the nearby mall, speaking in a tone that made it clear she would not be dissuaded. They ended up spending a full 2 hours there. She first went to a store and bought a top-quality car seat, sending him outside to install it. When he returned, they started shopping enthusiastically. They each got 3 outfits. Ari was excited, but Marcia seemed shy. Bev hugged her kindly and asked to be allowed to do this for them, mentioning they never had children. "I wish I could go out with my daughters and have some mother-daughter time together." Ari got bored fast, so Dave took her for a walk while Marcia and Beverly wrapped things up. Their final stop was the grocery store. Ari sat in the cart as Dave pushed, while Bev and Marcia talked about the groceries they were getting to cook with. It was like they were planning for a big meal, like the Last Supper. Ari helped put items in the shopping cart, focusing on the snack aisle. Beverly tried to put some back, but Ari gave her a look, so she left them there. On the way home, everything was quiet. While unloading the groceries, Beverly asked, "How many bedrooms do we have?" When she mentioned "we 4," they found it intriguing. "Why?" She simply sighed, gathered the girls, and headed upstairs. After 10 minutes, she phoned him. They discovered the girls in the largest guest room, the one with the bathrooms connected to it. "This is the girls' new room. It's theirs now. A safe place if things get tough. Make sure Marcia has keys to visit any time. Got it?" Marcia was feeling unsure, torn between feeling hopeful and scared. Ari was nestled in Beverly's arms, almost dozing off. Beverly had a determined look until he finally spoke up. Marcia started to shake, but then he smiled. "All right then, it's settled. I'll leave the decorating to you two," he said, turning to Marcia. "Do you accept our offer?" She ran to him and cried a lot. Beth put a sleepy baby down and sat with him. The man left after a while and sat on his comfy chair in the living room. He thought about how much his life had changed recently. Beverly came down and sat with him on the big chair, surprising him. Once she settled down, she began speaking quietly and gently rubbing his chest. "This really changes things, doesn't it? I'm going back to the old house to gather my things. Marcia is coming with me to assist. You're in charge of taking care of her until we return. Please don't give her unhealthy snacks. Just give her something light to snack on until dinner. We'll be back in 3 hours. She kissed him and looked scared as she said, "Do you want us to give it another try?" He hugged her and mentioned, "We have many problems to sort out, my dear. Being apart won't fix them. You're better at arranging things, so I trust you to handle this. It might be tough, but I want to give it a shot because I love you. Are you on board?" Was she home? That was a silly question. Before shooting himself, she wanted to use every comparison possible, but managed to smile despite her tears. His smile made her feel better. She quickly brought Marcia downstairs and left the house. After a moment of silence, she finally asked, "Why are you helping us?" She took her time before replying. She didn't want to begin their relationship with a lie. She wanted to be honest with him from the start. She liked him and genuinely wanted to help. He was in a tough situation, not by choice, taking care of a little child. Anyone kind would want to help in such a situation. Also, it seems like you are significant to Dave, and therefore important to me as well. You see, we were apart this weekend, perhaps marking the start of our journey back together. She paused briefly to think. During our time apart, I realized that Dave truly desired to have children, and I was selfish to not consider it. Meeting you and Ari brought out emotions in me that I never knew I had. Looking back, it makes me sad that I chose not to have children with your father. But now I see you both as a chance to make things right. I may not be your mother, but I want to be the best mother figure I can for you and Ari. Even if things change between Dave and me, I hope I can still be there for you. I know this might be hard to grasp, but I truly want to try. Is that okay with you?" Her eyes sparkled with tears. She held Bev's hand and agreed to help get Dave back for them to be a complete family. Both parents are needed for that, right? Bev had to stop the car. Marcia comforted her as she cried, cherishing her touch. After calming down, she hugged her gently and said, "Thank you, dear." The girl teared up when she called her that, and they hugged once more. Then came the surprise. To truly become her daughter, she needed to live with them all the time. Now that she was 18, she could ask the court to change her custody agreement. They promised to cover all the legal costs if she agreed. It will be easy. Once the job is finished, no one can separate us from her. You must get used to saying yes, Mom. It's time. Beverly's hand went numb from holding on so tight. She cried instead of speaking, but her mom still got the message. Yes, Mom. She went around the house, tidying up her closets and drawers. It took them 4 trips to load everything in the car, packing the trunk and most of the back seat. Your house is lovely, but it lacks a cozy feeling. Beverly noticed it too. You're spot on. I've experienced enough cold. Perhaps that's why we're deciding to sell it. I don't want to stay there again. I like feeling cozy. They returned with their car full. Ari and Dave carried her outside. Dave wondered why Beverly didn't bring her truck. She playfully hit his arm. You're right. We can use it next time, she said. Let's decide on dinner while we unpack, Dave said, very impressed. He cooked a stir-fry with chicken, veggies like zucchini, carrots, bell peppers, onions, mushrooms, and Brussels sprouts. He cooked rice to go with it. For a special touch, he made a colorful tomato salad with basil, olive oil, and a bit of vinegar. The dish looked very appealing. Ari really wanted to eat tomatoes, but she couldn't. She got upset and faced some rules from her parents. They asked Ari if she wanted to be as beautiful as her sister. Confused, Ari agreed. They explained that to look beautiful, she needed to eat a variety of foods. Her parents assured her that she would enjoy the new food. They told her it was a mix of things she already enjoyed. Beverly gave her a taste. She liked it and grinned. Dave tried being a parent. Can I have more? She said thanks to Beverly for teaching her something new. Smiling, she asked for more. She placed all the food on her plate carefully, her hands shaking with excitement. Ari, seeing this, took her hand and thanked her. After the meal, Ari cleaned her up while Marcia sent Dave to the living room. Later, Ari came back in his pajamas and bathed, then sat down with her on his lap. They watched a movie together that Beverly had bought earlier. It was Frozen. Ari stayed awake for most of the movie, which quickly became her favorite. They watched it many times over the years. Marcia quickly went next door and returned in a few minutes. Grandpa is not here and the door is locked. Beverly noticed steam coming out of his ears and comforted him by placing a hand on his shoulder. She smiled at Marcia, glad they had bought her those pajamas. Next, it was time to prepare for sleep. Marcia took a bath and changed into some shorts and pajamas that were modest yet showed her legs. Beverly smiled at Dave's reaction, noting that only one of them was a young girl. Later on, everyone was in bed before 10 since they all had work the next day. Beverly came out after her bath wearing a flattering baby doll nightgown that accentuated her figure. She caught Dave's gaze and playfully twirled around. His eyes widened in surprise when he noticed there were no underwear. She laughed and explained that she didn't bother putting it on as it seemed unnecessary. She teasingly pointed out that he was behind on his responsibilities as a husband, but playfully suggested he could make up for it later. Speaking softly, she added that it was up to him. He then gently helped her put on the gown, showing his willingness to fulfill his husband duties. "I think you didn't need to bother getting dressed. I adore you, Beverly." Just like that. Her loving feeling disappeared. She was so overwhelmed with emotions that she couldn't feel turned on anymore. But he still cared for her. He began kissing her and touching her like he always did, and she felt herself melting. Soon enough, the passion was back. He was taken aback when she grabbed a pillow. "It's for screaming into, baby. I really love being intimate with you, and I might get a bit loud sometimes. But since our kids are around, I need to keep it quiet. I'll just bite this pillow to muffle any sounds. I might end up making a hole in it from biting so much." She was happy that pillows were inexpensive. Even if they were pricey, she thought it would be worth it. Although they had set their alarms, Ari decided to be their alarm clock. She felt relieved that she had made Dave put on his underwear and had quickly put on her nightgown and underwear. They snuggled with her for a bit until Marcia came and took Ari while they got ready for the day. They hung out for a bit, but couldn't stay long due to time limits. Marcia made breakfast, and they all sat down together like a typical suburban family. Before leaving, Ari asked for a goodbye kiss, and they both gave Marcia a kiss on the cheek so she wouldn't feel left out. Marcia used Beverly's car to drive Dave and spare the car seat. Beverly drove Dave's truck to work. Jen arrived at the office shortly after Beverly. She noticed the truck and asked about it. Beverly proudly confirmed it belonged to her husband. Playfully telling Jen to mind her own business, they both headed inside for work. She arrived early, bringing coffee and pastries. Beverly insisted on waiting to talk until they had their snack and coffee. Dave and I got back together. "Jen, we need to figure some things out, and counseling might be needed, so I might be away a bit at times. It won't be smooth sailing, and there might be moments when I'm feeling down and irritable. Please be patient with me. I might not have said it before, but you're a great support for me at work. I might be relying on you more than usual. With your support, I can increase your salary by 7%. It's not a huge raise, but it's the most I can offer." Jen felt a mix of happiness and sadness. Her husband had been promoted and would be moving to a different state in 3 months. He received the news on Friday. His company had assisted in organizing some job leads for her, and she was scheduled to fly out next week for a series of interviews. Tears welled up in both of their eyes as she shared the news. "I still have 11 weeks left, boss. I will assist you in finding a replacement who will be just as dedicated as I have been." After embracing, they resumed their work tasks. On her way back home, she pondered the situation. As she parked in the driveway, the reality of the upcoming changes dawned on her. Marcia and Dave discussed the plan and both agreed it was a good idea. Their daughter, Ari, was full of energy and affection towards them. Marcia gave Ari a bath, read her a story, and rocked her to sleep. Once Ari was asleep, Marcia passed her to Dave and they waited together. They sat on the couch with Dave's arm around her, feeling cozy as they called Ari to join them. "Marcia, can you take a seat, please? We need to talk to you. Why are you still here? We really care about both of you. You do know that, don't you? You can talk to us about anything. We saw that you seemed upset all evening. When we asked about it, you started crying. Grandpa kicked us out because we didn't come home last night. He got really angry. I think he's been drinking again. He said I had to leave, but Ari was staying for the money. I hurried home and locked the doors. He's not allowing us to take our clothes or essentials. What should I do?" Beverly brought her in and comforted her on the couch. Both of them hugged her until she felt better. That evening, lying in bed, Beverly remembered what Marcia had told her. I went home directly, which made her really happy. Once she was feeling better, they talked about it. The first step is to go to court and ask for custody as soon as possible. If we can find a lawyer tomorrow, you will need to give them this address as your residence. The first question they will ask is if you can take care of her. Currently, your size might cause an issue. Have you ever worked before? Marcia sadly shared that she had some brief stints at burger joints. Dave smiled slightly, understanding Beverly's thoughts. She had the answer already if she was asking the question. First, let's focus on finding you a job. Luckily, I have some job opportunities available at my company. If you fill out the necessary paperwork, you can start working on Wednesday. Marcia stopped crying and asked what her role would be. I told her that I will need a personal assistant in 3 months. You need a 2-year degree, so you'll need to take classes in the evening. If you don't pass or quit, you'll lose your job. I believe in you, dear. Don't disappoint us. Marcia finished crying, and Beverly and Dave went to bed. He gave Bev a strong kiss as she got under the covers. Not that I'm unhappy, but why did you kiss me? It's for helping Marcia. Minori, we need to figure out who will take care of Ari. Seoul provides free daycare for its staff, so I will sign her up tomorrow. She can come with me in the car while Marcia can come with you. Do we need to think about finding her a way to get there? They both fell silent for a moment. Then he asked her what she was thinking. Dave, what is our plan here? Are we getting back together? Sometimes I never expected certain things to happen. We're now caring for 2 girls, which was something I never imagined. I wonder if we're overextending ourselves. I don't want any problems between us now. Should we let the girls go back to their grandfather and wish them well? She held on to him even tighter. No way. If we can't care for them, I will ensure they end up in a good place. They are safer where they are now. I want to keep them with us as much as possible. Please, dear. We're keeping them for sure. Marcia is an adult by law, even if she's not ready to act like one. Ari is the one I'm concerned about. She is 4 years old. If we decide to keep her, she will see us as her parents. How do you feel about that? After a moment of silence, she finally spoke. 2 years ago, I would have been scared. 3 months ago, I would have been unsure. But now, as long as you are on board, I feel happy about it. I am not sure how to be a parent, but I am willing to give it a try. Without thinking, he blurted out, We'll get through this, darling. We both messed up before. You focused too much on work, trying to move up in your career, when you could have paid more attention to us. And I should have been clearer, reminding you that even though you were my boss at the office, we were equals in our relationship. I've learned from those errors and won't make them again. I want to be more honest about my feelings and take stronger actions to prevent a repeat. I believe getting counseling is a good step once things calm down with the kids. He felt her tears on his shoulder and worried if he had acted too harshly. He inquired, and she playfully slapped his arm, clarifying that her tears were tears of happiness, not sorrow. I never imagined you would talk about having kids, but I'm so happy you mentioned it. They are what we were missing. My love, we were so caught up in ourselves that we forgot about life. Having children makes you put them first. It's not just about us now, it's about them. I can't wait to experience that. Let's go to bed now. Tomorrow, I need to teach my daughter about the business world. I don't want her to go through the struggles I faced. It's important to sign her up for daycare. I can't wait to see how surprised Saul will be when you bring Ari with you tomorrow. We should both take tomorrow off work, Beth. Maybe just for the morning. I think Marcia and Ari both need clothes because her grandfather won't let Marcia inside the house. Ari needs daycare, so I have to talk to Sol about that. Also, Ari needs a lawyer for custody. We have to act quickly on that. Tomorrow I'll talk to their grandfather and try to get him to understand the situation. Making the exchange of custody easier will help. I agree, she mentioned in a professional tone. And you were correct about the transportation matter. She will require a vehicle to commute to school. We can arrange that in a few months after she has adjusted to her job. What type should we purchase for her? Let's hold off for 2 months and then ask for her opinion. Let's not overspend. A basic car will suffice. We don't have to be concerned about her digging. We just need to ensure safety. You're prepared for anything, honey. Now we should rest. There's a lot to do tomorrow. They woke up feeling happy and ready for the day ahead, like their own little alarm clock. Beverly realized they should lock the door before being intimate. She chuckled at the idea. Marcia was unsure and Ari was unaware of the upcoming changes in their lives. Ari took them to the mall to shop for clothes. She helped Marcia choose work-appropriate outfits and also encouraged her to pick out some casual clothes. She chose a few short skirts and some jeans that fit perfectly. She also grabbed some plain shirts and a couple of fancy tops. After that, she was ready. Beverly told her to select her own underwear and to consider how it would look under her work clothes. Then she focused on Ari. She thought everything was amazing and soon started laughing and making happy sounds when Beverly helped her try on different clothes and lovely dresses. She wasn't enjoying the shoe store until Beverly found a pair of pink sneakers that she liked. After that, she was more cooperative. Dave joined them for lunch but struggled to show much interest in their shopping stories. Eventually, they stopped trying to involve him. Dave and Ari said goodbye as they left in Dave's truck. Jen arrived with a young woman, which surprised her. The woman wanted to see if she could be trained and if she had any business skills. Jen requested honesty after working with her for a few days. If she is able, she will replace you. If not, we will find her a different job. Who is this girl to you? Beverly blushed as she told how she met her. Jen chuckled. I wish I could have seen that. Does she call you Mom? Not yet. I hope to hear it one day. She saw pictures of Ari, mostly with Dave holding her. I think she's going to favor her dad. That's okay with me if I get the bigger one. Jen almost fell over laughing. Imagine that. A girl as pretty as her? What will you do when she brings home a boy you don't approve of? Get ready for many sleepless nights ahead. Beverly hadn't considered that. She thought about whether Dave still had his grandfather's old double-barreled shotgun and if it was still functional. Marcia was very confused by everything and stuck close to Jen. They brought her to HR to begin her paperwork. She started on the lowest salary of $22,000 a year. She believed it was a lot of money. Beverly smiled and said, "Wait until you have to pay your own bills. It won't seem like much then." Marcia frowned, and Beverly quickly reassured her, "Don't worry, that's a long way off. I won't let you move out until you finish your degree, at least. Then we'll talk about it." She was silent on the ride back. Beverly inquired about her day. "It was a lot to take in, but I will try to be like the person I admire." Beverly smiled warmly, and Marcia responded quietly this time. "I might have done something wrong today. A fellow office worker asked about me, and Jen mentioned I am your daughter. I was really surprised, but I didn't say anything to her. Everyone knows now. You might have seen some people giving her weird looks, but she ignored them. She was just trying to help the company and herself. She knew people would react strangely. Just go along with it. They might treat you nicely. I've been called worse things, so this isn't a big deal." When they got home, they saw Dave and his small helper had made dinner, grilled chicken and vegetables. They seemed exhausted from working hard. He thought about how Saul reacted when he explained why he was running late and what he needed. Ari was in his arms, holding onto his neck tightly. He quickly phoned Susan, who arrived at the plant very quickly. She knew exactly how to comfort Ari, holding him close while they chatted. He shared all the details of his amazing weekend with them. Susan looked emotional, which surprised Ari. Saul looked a bit teary-eyed as he mentioned the cleaning crew not dusting, but he continued smiling. Susan quickly took Ari's hand and led them to the preschool. Ari, unfamiliar with being around peers, was a bit hesitant. However, the teacher managed to encourage her to join a game an hour later. She barely noticed Dave leaving. He told Susan and Sol about their family history and inquired if they knew of any good family law specialists. Susan quickly made a call because one of the boards she was part of dealt with helping children in tough circumstances. Susan managed to arrange an appointment with a top family law expert through a family law judge she knew. The meeting was scheduled after regular work hours to accommodate them. He was excited to share the news with Beth. However, Susan's questions brought him back to reality. She pointed out that spending a weekend with his wife and suddenly having children in their lives wouldn't solve all their problems. Susan suggested that they still have unresolved emotions and past issues to work through, and the arrival of the children might complicate things further. "We want to see a marriage counselor to help us, and if things go well, visit a family expert to help make things easier for all of us. I'm sure of one thing, we still care for each other. We are starting to really like those two girls. Bev is determined and ambitious when she sets her sights on something, and she wants it all." This weekend made her realize what we missed in the past by not having something, and now she sees it as an opportunity to make things right. I will be responsible for keeping her grounded and steady. She needs to avoid falling back into her old habits. If I notice a sign of that happening, I will address it immediately. It may not be easy, but we are both ready to make the effort. Grant. Good job, Dave. I want to share with you that even though it will be tough to see them go, it will be worth it in the end. Keep going. Your child will bring you so much joy. Get to work now. You have a family to take care of. Dave worked for a few hours, admitting he didn't do a good job. Ari happily ran into his dad's arms when he arrived to take her home. She excitedly shared all the new things she had learned and how well she was doing in French. The facility director smiled and mentioned that Ari seemed very smart. He suggested that it would be a good idea to have her tested in a few years to make sure she stays engaged. He also handed over a list of items they would need. If you feel unsure, ask her mother to call us and we can explain what to expect. Good night. Bye, Ari. She tousled her hair, hummed a tune, and strolled off. The woman seemed to enjoy her work, took the baby, sat down, and inquired about dinner. Chicken, she said. He took some toys Beth bought and placed them near where he was cooking on the grill. He noticed she really liked a stuffed dog and thought about getting her a real one. Her birthday was soon. When the older girls got back, Ari happily ran to them, and Dave picked her up effortlessly, as if he had always done it. She wanted to let them know she had to go to school, at Mesereau's with her friends. Beth got a kiss, leaving Marcia looking confused. Her cheek received a kiss. Time to change, girls. Ari and I cooked dinner almost ready, just 10 minutes. Ari went inside with them, singing and laughing, trying to hold both their hands at once. After 10 minutes, they came back wearing shorts and t-shirts. Ari, who had just returned from Bible school, helped set up the picnic table quickly. They poured tea and lemonade, plated the chicken, and arranged the veggies on a big platter. Before eating, Ari, full of gratitude from Bible school, held hands with Grace and thanked God for the food and for his companions. Ari had enough and said amen, pointing to the roasted carrots. Beth assisted her by preparing her plate with chopped pieces of everything. Later that evening, after Beth's storytelling and rocking Ari to sleep, she seemed hesitant to bring something up, unsure of how. Ari reminded her of their promise to always be honest with each other. If something is on your mind, it's important to talk about it. Why did we stop going to church? In short, we became too caught up in other things and may have lost motivation. What led to this, Ari? She suggested we should start saying grace before meals, so maybe we should consider going back to church. It might help if social services ever check on us. I don't want to go to a religious place just to look good, fearing something bad might happen. I think it's a good idea for both girls and us. We could join activities with people our age and make new friends. This could be a new supportive community for us. We should discuss this with the girls this weekend to hear what they think. She seemed pleased with the idea as she danced happily, causing him to feel excited. "Lock the door," she whispered while throwing her top. The next morning, they were woken up by Ari banging on the door, unable to enter. He would go to the bathroom while Beth put on her robe and answered the door. Ari was crying at first, but calmed down when Beth hugged her. Beth told him the next night that they wouldn't lock the door anymore. If they needed privacy, they would leave the door open after. They settled into a regular routine in the following weeks. Every morning, Ari made sure to wake them up with excitement, showering them with kisses and hugs as she shared her school day plans. Marcia, with lessons from Beth, would then get ready for work in her professional attire and makeup, while Ari stayed entertained. Despite being only 18 years old, Marcia appeared much older, which concerned Dave, though he would simply laugh it off. Everyone knows she's the boss's daughter. Some people are curious. I would be surprised if they weren't, considering how attractive she is. But we have to be professional. Jen and I keep a close eye on her. She's 18 years old, and I don't think she's had many dating experiences because of her family situation. I believe she will be quite popular when she does begin dating. By the way, did you ever locate that shotgun? Yes, I bought some buckshot. Bev couldn't stop laughing at breakfast. The girls had been living with them for 3 weeks when their grandfather finally visited. Dave, Beverly, and Ari were out shopping, leaving Marcia to cook dinner at home. The grandfather knocked on the door and asked Marcia to bring them back home. Marcia spoke with him, explaining that they preferred to stay put, but he became very upset. She suspected he had been drinking. After putting Ari to bed, she informed everyone. Dave planned to confront him the next day, but Beverly convinced him not to. "I'll contact Mrs. Ingalls. She'll have a solution," said Marcia. Inglis was good at family law. Susan suggested a retired judge. The judge started her own practice after leaving the court. She only took a few cases. She never had more than 3 clients, picking carefully. They liked her, and Ari enjoyed sitting on her lap and playing with her long silver hair. However, she proved to be strong and resilient. Giving custody of the child to her sister seems like a good idea. Her sister has a nice home and a stable job. She has a clean background with no tattoos or piercings, and she maintains a neat appearance. It could become complicated if you get involved due to your recent separation. Remember, Marcia is an adult, so adoption is not an option. She can change her name to yours or be recognized as your daughter. Both of you have good jobs and are financially stable. Going to counseling and waiting a year before starting the process can make things easier. The grandpa may be difficult, but it will be tough for the people who help families to let him take care of a 4-year-old child if Marcia doesn't agree. His past and the way he acts will make it even harder. Don't make him upset. Let him visit his granddaughters in a supervised way. Help him understand they'll be happier with you. If he disagrees, we'll have to stand up for what's right. Bev shared with Mrs. Ingalls was told about what happened, and she said she would arrange for social workers to check their house and talk to them first. They also planned to go back to the grandpa's house to see if there were any signs that the home was not safe. Maybe they could convince him to let the kids leave because he is old and not well. We will have to wait and see what happens. Meanwhile, stay alert. Social workers visited Beverly and Dave's house to check things out. They seemed happy with what they saw. The couple had made sure to clean every inch of the house before the visit. Ari, unaware of their identity, was her usual friendly self. They didn't need to ask, as she eagerly showed them her room filled with toys and stuffed animals, talking excitedly. Then she took them outside to see her new swing set and sandbox. Marcia stayed composed as she spoke about the cozy and loving atmosphere at home. She wiped away a few tears as she shared how it felt like the first real home they had ever experienced. It didn't go well for the grandfather. Marcia did most of the cleaning and cooking while they stayed with him. They found a messy house with lots of dirty dishes and takeout containers. Mrs. Ingalls told Beverly and Dave that their interview went well and they would likely get the job. She was correct, as a month later, Marcia officially became Ari's guardian. Despite this, Ari's grandfather never visited them. Marcia decided to bring Ari to see him, with Dave accompanying them. However, when they arrived, he refused to let them inside, closing the door in front of them. Ari seemed down at first, but soon perked up and insisted that they all relax together in a very large hammock Dave had discovered. The bed was so big that Beverly, Ari, Dave, and Marcia could all lay on it together. They would laugh as they lay down, with Dave playfully pulling Beverly down with him as Marcia giggled. Then Marcia would lay next to Beverly, and they would sway back and forth gently. It was so relaxing that they often fell asleep. Beverly cherished that day forever. Marcia wanted to snuggle with Dave instead of Ari. She often found them napping together in the hammock. She took photos and Marcia posted them on Facebook, saying they were snuggling with her dad. Beverly showed the post to Dave, who then quickly left the room. She discovered him crying in the backyard. He hugged her tightly and apologized. It was surprising to witness. He entered and kissed both girls warmly. He thought marriage counseling would be easy, but it was not. The counselor was smart and made them share their reasons for separating and reuniting in individual meetings. During their meetings, she shared all her thoughts with them. Sometimes they argued loudly, other times they cried and embraced each other tightly. It seemed like they were scared of losing one another. She guided them through tough moments, then helped them reflect on everything afterwards. He was really upset that she didn't want kids without discussing it much with him. She didn't like when Dave would bring it up now and then. In the end, they both learned a lot from their differences. One main issue was that they focused more on their jobs than their marriage. He admired her achievements but felt upset when she belittled him as she advanced in her career. She was frustrated that he didn't have the same ambition to succeed in his sales job. He nearly chuckled at that. If we were both similar to you, our marriage would have ended a while back. This made her cry a lot. But later on, she saw his perspective. She hurt him deeply when she mentioned feeling he was too passive and she seemed to be in charge. Then he acknowledged she was correct about some of her emotions. He only started standing up for himself after she disrespected him greatly. There were times when they would return home feeling upset and not talking a lot. Ari could tell when they were in a bad mood and would move around cuddling until they both felt happier. Marshwood was nervous, wondering what would happen next until they brought her close to their laps. Bev would show her love. He always remembered the day he picked up Ari from daycare and she ran to him. "Daddy!" she shouted happily when he hugged her. She noticed the other kids calling their parents Mom and Dad, so she assumed that's how it should be. He explained to her later that if he was Daddy, then Beverly was Mommy. She appeared to grasp the idea as she hopped off the truck and hurried towards her mother, holding a dinosaur cut out with small red puffballs on its back. "Mommy, see what I made for you," said Dave. He thought Beverly might faint. Tears welled up in her eyes. Marcia and Dave watched quietly. After a moment, she said to him, "Good job, Dad," which made him tear up too. The dinosaur was displayed in a box on Beverly's office wall, but now she retired. It sat in their home's hallway. Marcia stood beside her, holding her hand. Nearly 2 years had passed since Dave and Beverly began their journey of reconciliation. This moment marked the final step in their healing. As the music began to play, Marcia opened the door for Beverly. She thought about the talk they had earlier while they were waiting. "Thanks, Mom and Dad, for rescuing us, giving us a warm home, and believing in me. I can't believe I'll be a third-year college student soon. I'll work hard with you as my great example." Beverly hugged her tightly, holding back tears to avoid smudging her makeup. "I really appreciate you for everything you've done for me. I was at rock bottom, losing everything. My job was disappearing and my husband had left me. But when I went to that barbecue, I took a chance to turn things around. Not only did I win back my husband, but I also gained a new family. I can't express enough how much I care for you, Ari, and how proud I am of you." Marcia chuckled often, finding joy in everyday moments. She believed this laughter would last for many more decades. With a smile, she entered the room filled with friends cheering and clapping. The Episcopalian Church's reverend, whom they had been visiting for over a year, was waiting at the altar, grinning warmly. Their friends from the same group were all present at the event. Jen came with her husband and their 5-month-old baby. Saul stood next to Dave while Susan was getting ready. Marcia and Ariana stood on the other side. 6-year-old Ari held a basket of rose petals, accompanied by their translator. Her dogs, Sunny and Sugar, were wearing small pillows on their backs. They waited momentarily, taking in the moment, as Dave made his way down the red carpet. Ari walked ahead, scattering rose petals. The dogs followed closely behind her as they reached the officiant and repeated their vows once more, hand in hand. Ari gave Dave her ring, and he had gotten it cleaned at the jeweler's. The ring had a big diamond on it. She allowed him to put it on her finger while looking at the mother's ring the girls had gifted her last birthday. The 2 stones sparkled in the dim light, and she felt happy wearing it. Tears ran down her face when the minister asked who was giving this woman away, and their daughters responded. This was the 3rd most special day for him. The first was marrying Beverly for the first time. The second was when Ari's adoption was finalized, and she got to have their family name. Marcia was upset when he said she needed to use their family name too, and handed her some papers. She just had to submit them, and then she would officially be a waxman. He smiled as he put the valuable ring on her finger. It represented their past with the original design and their future with the upgrade. He was already thinking about the one he would get for their 30th anniversary. He had a surprise for her, but she surprised him too. After exchanging vows and a kiss, she gathered everyone's attention. She thanked everyone for being there, old and new friends alike. Then she took his hands and shared unexpected news. "I had a doctor's appointment yesterday, honey. I found out something I already felt was true. I'm expecting a baby, honey. I'm 8 weeks pregnant. I don't know how it happened, but I believe it's a blessing from God. It's going to be a girl." Everyone was happy and started clapping, but his reaction was unexpected. He fainted. Beverly and Dave watched proudly as Ari walked across the stage to get her high school diploma, just like they did for Marcia 10 years ago when she graduated from college. Ari did well in school and would be going to the same university as Marcia. Dave smiled at Marcia while holding his 4-year-old grandson. She smiled back while holding his twin sister. He thought Beverly was a great mom, but her love for her grandchildren was even greater. Marcia got her grandpa's house after he died, and she fixed it up for her and her husband. The grandchildren were easy to visit because there was a path between the back doors. He had set aside 2 acres to build a house for his family. He also purchased a vacant lot next to it for their restless daughter, Haley, who always seemed to be moving around, never staying still. The only person who could calm her was Ari, who she had shadowed since she was little. The idea of her growing up made him worried. Maybe it was time to get some more ammo. Beverly left her job at 50, leaving with a generous retirement package after rescuing the company. She was inspired by Dave to merge with a South Korean company that wanted to operate in her area. The merger benefited everyone involved, and she was praised for her role in making it happen. The boss came to visit to discuss the merger and persuade her to take on a new role. As they chatted in her office, he noticed paintings of colorful dinosaurs. "I apologize, sir. I'm starting a new chapter in my life and want to savor it. My youngest daughter just celebrated her 11th birthday. My second child is preparing to start college soon. As for the oldest, yeah, we kind of missed out on that one." He chuckled sadly. "I can't believe she chose to work with the Koreans. Let her know that if things don't work out, both she and Jin are still welcome back here any time. I'll make sure to tell her, but I wouldn't count on it too much if I were you. Jin is enjoying her new job as the boss at a different company. Marcia is having fun working with the Koreans, even though it felt a bit offensive at first, like they were just testing her because she's an American woman in charge. However, she has done well, and they are genuinely impressed with her. The owner has asked his granddaughter to help him out for now so she can learn from him." They shared a laugh. "I had to give it a shot. Best of luck to you, Beverly. Don't forget to send photos of the grandkids when you write to us. And maybe consider that consulting job we talked about now and then. You can pick which projects you want to do for as much or as little time as you want. I would be upset if I spent all that time training you for nothing. It could help make things less boring from time to time. I will consider it, I promise. And remember, you can always call or email me for advice. Thank you for supporting me, sir. It means a great deal to me." He looked a little ashamed. "It was worth it for you. Farewell, Beverly." She hugged him tightly as he went to hold her hand, tears falling on his fancy coat. He gave her a comforting pat before releasing her. She understood. Eventually, she would work for them part-time on a temporary basis without needing to be away for too long. It was okay with her. She was talented at her job. She thought it was the right time for school when the youngest grandchild began. Dave watched Haley, known as Hurricane Haley, trying to calm down. She smiled at Dave as he recalled when she was going to join the family. Bev and Dave chose to renew their vows to celebrate fixing their marriage and finalizing their family after counseling and court meetings to adopt their daughters. He was very emotional when she surprised him by revealing she was pregnant at 38. She wasn't sure how it happened, thinking it might be due to taking cold medicine. She found it hard to meet his gaze sometimes, and he understood her feelings. If only she had asked him, he would have been very happy. However, he thought she was scared he might refuse. He passed out when he heard what she said in front of everyone they knew. When he woke up with his head in her lap, she looked extremely worried. She was apologizing. He silenced her by giving her a long kiss. The kiss made her realize he was pleased. He was always anxious, but Bev had an easy pregnancy and kept working until he got upset. She stopped working 3 weeks before her baby was due. When Haley was born, he was there with Beverly. He felt fortunate to be the one to show their new baby to her and was amazed when the little bundle grabbed one of his fingers. That moment touched him deeply and stayed in his heart forever. He always smiled when he watched Beth's reaction the first time she saw their daughter on video. Whenever he felt low or stressed, he would look at the video and feel comforted. Marcia had Ari, and they were eagerly awaiting Sol and Susan, their grandparents, who fit into their family effortlessly. People often mistook them for Ari's real family. The moment they were able to enter the room and hold the baby was truly special. There were many tears shed, enough to fill a bathtub, yet no one felt unhappy. As time passed, everyone noticed the strong connection forming between Ari and Haley. Ari was very young when they adopted her, so she only had memories of them. For years, she believed she was part of their family by blood. When she finally learned the truth, it was heartbreaking for her. However, Beth was there to comfort her. "You might not be related by blood, my dear, but you are family because we chose to love you. I was captivated from the moment I first laid eyes on you, and you played with my shiny necklace. To us, you are like a daughter in every way that matters. Just know that our love for you is unwavering. Nothing could ever change that, okay? Nothing. Be proud of your name, Ariana Marie. It was chosen with love by your parents." After Beverly retired, Saul lived a bit longer, but when he passed away, it affected his daughter deeply. She felt lost for a while as she mourned his loss and struggled to find her way. She felt better when Bev arrived and encouraged her to join her for lunch, sharing their story. "Have you ever surprised your spouse with a romantic evening? When was the last time you shared a meal together?" "This," she gestured. "Work isn't more important than your husband. I nearly lost mine. I'll always remember the pain and effort it took to win him back." Consider carefully, Amanda. Do you believe Saul would approve of this decision? Certainly not. He would advise you to sell the business before losing your loved ones. Remember the past. Saul managed the company for many years. He rarely skipped dinner with his family or any special occasions during your upbringing. If he could balance work and family, so can you. She hired more staff and trained them well to help with the daily tasks before entrusting them with responsibilities. Once she was confident in their abilities, she planned a surprise second honeymoon for her husband in a tropical destination. They were intimate every day, often more than once. One day she surprised him by revealing she had stopped taking birth control when they decided to leave, hoping to have a baby. Their first son arrived almost 9 months later. After Beverly and Dave became free, they began doing things from their bucket list. They bought a motorized RV and traveled around the U.S. during summers, often bringing a grandchild with them. Haley occasionally joined them, but she liked staying with her older sisters more. Surprising everyone, they stayed a month on Crete, an island they first saw on TV and wanted to visit. They returned home for a month, then went to Portugal. Next, they traveled to Spain, Italy, and France. After considering their options, they chose Crete as their favorite and bought a lovely 4-bedroom house on 10 acres there. The house had grapevines, citrus trees, and a couple of olive trees. There was also a great pool. Marcia visited with her family for 2 weeks every year, and Ari stayed for a month with her friends after college. Haley wanted to rent the house for her and 6 friends after high school graduation. Dave didn't like the idea very much. Dev learned a favorite local phrase, which meant, "Let's get naked and have fun in the pool." Even at 56, Beverly could still wear a bikini and look great in it. Hey listeners, if you enjoyed watching this video and want to stay updated with our latest content, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss out on what's coming next. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video with Queen Cheating Tales.